The gun pressed against Officer Sarah Mitchell's temple. "Any last words, cop?" She knelt in the frozen dirt hands, zip-tied blood dripping from her forehead. Around her 6 armed men waited for their leader's signal. Victor Dominguez smiled. "Your husband begged too, right before I put 17 bullets in him." Sarah's eyes burned with rage. "Go to hell." "Ladies first." His finger tightened on the trigger. 200 yards away, hidden in the tree line, Commander Jack Reeves lowered his binoculars. His German Shepherd Ranger pressed against his leg, tan and black fur, bristling amber eyes locked on the clearing. Jack's hand moved to his rifle. "Not today," he whispered. The forest held its breath. Commander Jack Reeves had come to these mountains to disappear. 6 months of isolation, living in a cabin with no electricity, no phone signal, no connection to a world that had taken everything from him. He wasn't looking for trouble. Trouble found him anyway. Jack crouched behind a fallen pine, his navy camouflage uniform blending with the winter shadows. Standard issue woodland pattern faded from years of deployment, worn now out of habit rather than duty. Beside him, Ranger remained motionless, 70 pounds of trained muscle and instinct, his tan and black coat dusted with snow. Through the scope, Jack counted the threats. 6 men armed with automatic weapons. 1 woman on her knees, hands bound, blood matting her hair. And standing over her, a man whose posture announced him as the leader, broad-shouldered, shaved head, moving with the lazy confidence of someone who had never faced real opposition. Jack had seen men like him before, in Afghanistan, in Syria, in the dark corners of the world where violence was currency and mercy was weakness. He knew what was about to happen. "Ranger, still." The German shepherd's ears flattened, but he obeyed. His eyes never left the clearing. Jack's training screamed at him to withdraw. Call it in. Let the authorities handle it. This wasn't his mission, wasn't his fight. But then the leader spoke, and everything changed. "Your husband begged too, right before I put 17 bullets in him." Jack's blood went cold. He knew that story. Every cop in America knew that story. Officer Daniel Mitchell executed outside his own precinct 2 years ago. A message from the cartel. A warning to anyone who dared investigate their operations. The woman on her knees was his widow, and the man with the gun was the one who had ordered the hit. Jack's finger found the trigger guard. "Not today," he whispered. Victor Dominguez had waited 2 years for this moment. Officer Sarah Mitchell had become a problem. She had transferred to Colorado after her husband's death, supposedly to escape the memories. But Victor's sources told a different story. She was investigating, digging, getting closer to the truth than anyone had managed before. Tonight, she had stumbled onto his operation, a weapons cache hidden in the abandoned mining tunnels, worth $40 million and connected to every cartel in North America. She had to die. "Any last words?" Victor repeated, enjoying the moment. Sarah raised her chin, defiant, despite the terror in her eyes. "You think killing me stops anything? I've sent everything I know to the FBI. Recordings, documents, witness statements." Victor laughed. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Check your phone. I'd bet my friends in Chicago are calling right about now." One of Victor's men, Marcus, his second-in-command, pulled out a phone. His face went pale. "Boss, 12 missed calls from Ramirez." Victor's smile flickered. "Call him back." Marcus dialed. The conversation was brief, his expression growing darker with each word. "Ramirez says the FBI raided the Chicago warehouse an hour ago. They had our shipping manifests, everything." "Impossible." Victor turned back to Sarah. "How?" "I told you, I've been building this case for 2 years. Sarah's voice was steady, almost calm. "Kill me, and you just confirm everything. Let me go, and maybe you have time to run. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to think, something you've never been good at." Victor backhanded her across the face. Sarah spat blood onto the snow. "I don't run," Victor snarled. "I've never run. And I'm not starting now because some cop's widow thinks she can threaten me." He raised the gun again. "Say hello to your husband." Jack made his decision in the space between heartbeats. He had walked away from violence, had promised Elena, his dying wife, that he would find peace, that he would stop being a weapon and start being a man. But some promises can't be kept. Not when an innocent person is about to die. "Ranger, ready." The German shepherd's muscles coiled. His lips pulled back from his teeth in a silent snarl. Jack sighted through his scope. 200 yards. Light wind from the east. 6 targets, 1 hostage, limited cover. Impossible odds for most men. But Jack Reeves wasn't most men. He had 18 years in the teams, had led missions on 4 continents, had done things that would never appear in any official record for reasons that would never be explained to civilians. He was a ghost who had learned to kill before he learned to live. And tonight, he was going to use those skills one more time. "On my shot," he murmured. "Take the nearest." Silent. Ranger understood. They had worked together for 7 years, communicated in a language beyond words. The dog knew exactly what was expected. Jack centered his crosshairs on the man farthest from Sarah, the one with the clearest line of fire to the others. "Take him out. First, create confusion. Use the chaos to close the distance." He exhaled slowly and pulled the trigger. The shot cracked through the frozen air like thunder. Marcus dropped without a sound, a neat hole appearing in his chest. His weapon clattered to the ground. For half a second, nobody moved. The other 5 men stared at their fallen comrade, brains struggling to process what had happened. That half second was all Jack needed. "Contact sniper!" one of them screamed. Victor grabbed Sarah by the hair, pulling her in front of him as a shield. "Find him. Kill him." The men scattered weapons up flashlights, cutting through the darkness. They swept the tree line with panicked, undisciplined movements, soldiers in name-only drug runners who had never faced a real enemy. Jack was already moving. He displaced laterally, keeping low, using the terrain he had memorized over months of solitary hunting. Ranger ghosted alongside him, silent as death. "Ranger, flank right." The German shepherd peeled off, disappearing into the shadows. Jack circled left, closing the distance. His boots made no sound on the frozen ground. His breathing was controlled, heart rate steady, mind clear. This was what he was built for. 2 of Victor's men moved together, covering each other's backs. Smart tactics, poor execution. They were focused on the tree line, expecting the sniper to stay at range. They didn't expect him to be 10 feet away. Jack emerged from behind a boulder, grabbed the first man's rifle, and drove his elbow into the base of his skull. The second man spun, raising his weapon. Too slow. Jack caught the barrel, redirected it past his head, and struck 3 times, throat, solar plexus, temple. The man dropped. 2 down. 4 to go. "He's close!" someone shouted. "The shooter's moving." Victor pressed the gun harder against Sarah's temple. "Show yourself or she dies." Jack melted back into the shadows. He needed to separate Victor from his men, needed to isolate him, remove the human shield, create an opportunity. Ranger would help with that. The scream came from the eastern tree line, high-pitched, terrified, cut short by a wet, gurgling sound. "Collins! Collins, report!" Silence. "What the hell is out there?" one of the remaining men whispered. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's not human." Another scream. This one longer, more desperate. 3 down. Victor's composure cracked. "Fall back to the vehicles. Now." He dragged Sarah toward the SUVs parked at the edge of the clearing. His 2 remaining men covered the retreat weapons, sweeping wildly. Jack let them go. For now. He needed them bunched together, focused on escape, not expecting an attack. He needed them to feel safe, and then he would strike. "Ranger, return." The German shepherd materialized from the darkness, blood on his muzzle eyes, bright with the fire of a working dog, doing what he was bred to do. "Good boy." They followed at a distance, tracking the SUVs through the forest. Jack knew this terrain better than anyone. He knew where the road narrowed, where the trees crowded close, where a single fallen log could block an escape. He had prepared for this moment without knowing it. Victor's convoy reached the choke point exactly as Jack predicted. A massive pine had fallen across the road, not by accident, but by design. Jack had dropped it months ago, planning to use it for firewood. Now it served a different purpose. "Get out and move it!" Victor screamed. His remaining men scrambled from the vehicle's weapons slung, grabbing the trunk with gloved hands. Jack stepped onto the road behind them. "Don't!" They spun, saw the tall figure in navy camouflage rifle raised German Shepherd at his side. "Drop your weapons. Hands on your heads. Now." "Who the hell are you?" Victor demanded. "Someone who should have minded his own business." Jack's voice was calm, almost bored. "But here we are. Weapons down. Last warning." The two men looked at Victor. He still held Sarah, gun still pressed to her head. "You shoot me, she dies. Maybe, maybe not." Jack's aim didn't waver. "But here's what I know for certain. Your men drop their weapons, or my dog tears their throats out. Your choice." Ranger growled a sound that seemed to come from somewhere deep and primal. The two men dropped their rifles. "Hands on your heads, knees on the ground." They complied, faces pale with fear. "Now you." Jack's eyes locked with Victor's. "Release the officer." "You won't shoot, not with her in front of me." "You sure about that?" "I've been doing this for 20 years. I know bluffs when I see them." "Funny, so do I." Jack took a step forward. "You know what the difference is between us? I've actually killed people. Not through hired guns and proxies. Personally. With my own hands. I've lost count of how many." Victor's grip on Sarah tightened. "But you know what I've never done? I've never executed an unarmed woman in cold blood. Never murdered a cop in front of his precinct. Never destroyed a family for profit. You don't know what I've done." "I know exactly what you've done. Victor Dominguez, Los Diablos cartel. Responsible for the deaths of at least 47 people, including Officer Daniel Mitchell." Jack's voice dropped to a whisper. "I've been waiting for someone like you. You're a cop. Worse, I'm a SEAL." Jack smiled, and there was nothing friendly in it. "And tonight you're going to answer for everything." Victor's mind raced. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to be in control. He was supposed to be the one with power. But looking into this stranger's eyes that held nothing but cold, calculated certainty, Victor felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. "What do you want?" "I already told you. Release the officer. Get on your knees. Wait for the authorities. And if I don't, then I take you apart piece by piece until you do." Jack's aim shifted slightly. "Your kneecap, then your shoulder, then your elbow. I can keep you alive and conscious through all of it. I've had practice." Sarah spoke for the first time since the standoff began. "He's not bluffing, Victor. I've seen his file. He's exactly who he says he is." Victor looked at the man in front of him, at the dog with blood on its muzzle, at his men kneeling in the snow, weapons out of reach. He had survived 20 years in the cartel by knowing when to fight and when to retreat. Tonight was neither. Tonight was surrender. "Fine." He released Sarah, pushing her forward. "You win." Sarah stumbled, caught herself, and moved behind Jack's position. "On your knees." Victor complied, hands raised. "Ranger. Guard." The German Shepherd moved to stand over the three cartel members, teeth bared, every muscle tense. Jack kept his rifle trained on Victor as he approached. "You think this changes anything?" Victor sneered. "I have lawyers. Connections. I'll be out in a week." "I don't think so. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." Jack pulled out his phone. "But do you—" He showed Victor the screen, an app displaying a red recording icon. I've been streaming this entire encounter to a secure server. Live audio and video to the FBI, DEA, and Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Your confession about Daniel Mitchell. Your weapons cache. Everything. Victor's face went white. You can't. I already did. It's done. Transmitted. Saved. There's no lawyer in the world who can bury this. I'll kill you. I'll find out who you are and I'll... My name is Jack Reeves, Commander United States Navy SEALs retired. I live in a cabin 5 miles north of here. Come find me anytime. Jack leaned close. I'll be waiting. Victor lunged. Jack moved faster, sidestepping, grabbing Victor's arm, twisting it behind his back in a joint lock that drove the larger man to his knees. I said, wait for the authorities. You should learn to listen. Sirens began to echo in the distance. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. Sarah had found one of the dead men's radios, called for backup. Help was finally coming. You think you're a hero. Victor gasped through the pain. You're just another killer, same as me. Maybe, but there's a difference. Jack tightened the lock. I kill people who deserve it. You kill people who get in your way. That's not the same thing, not even close. The first patrol car burst into the clearing, followed by 2 more. Officers emerged, weapons-drawn voices shouting commands. Jack released Victor, stepped back, and raised his hands. Commander Jack Reeves, he said calmly. Retired Navy. The men on the ground are members of the Los Diablos cartel. The officer behind me is Sarah Mitchell. She can explain everything. Sarah stepped forward, badge visible despite the blood on her face. He's telling the truth. This man saved my life. The officers exchanged glances. One of them, a sergeant by his stripes, approached carefully. Sir, I'm going to need you to put down your weapon. Understood. Jack ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and set the rifle on the ground. The dog is friendly. His name is Ranger. He responds to my commands only. Ranger sat, ears perked, watching the proceedings with intelligent eyes. The sergeant studied Jack for a long moment. The camouflage uniform, the controlled demeanor, the way he moved like someone who had spent a lifetime in combat. You military was SEALs 20 years. And you just happened to be in the area. I live here, been alone in these mountains for 6 months. Jack shrugged. Heard gunshots, investigated, found a cartel execution in progress. So you decided to intervene against 6 armed men. Didn't seem like anyone else was going to. The sergeant almost smiled. Hell of a thing, Commander. Just did what needed doing. Sarah approached, her hands still shaking from adrenaline and fear. He took out 5 of them by himself, with his dog. I've never seen anything like it. 5 men. They'll find the bodies in the tree line. This man, Jack, he was like a ghost. They never saw him coming. The sergeant whistled low. SEALs, huh? Retired. Doesn't look retired to me. Jack met his eyes. Some things you don't forget. The processing took hours. Victor and his surviving men were loaded into patrol cars, hands cuffed, faces twisted with rage and humiliation. The crime scene was secured, evidence photographed, bodies recovered from the forest. Jack gave his statement 3 times to the patrol sergeant, to a detective, and finally to a federal agent who had been flown in specifically for the case. You're aware that what you did could be considered vigilantism? The agent asked. I'm aware that if I hadn't intervened, Officer Mitchell would be dead and Victor Dominguez would be in Mexico by morning. Still, I saw a crime in progress. I had the training and capability to stop it. I stopped it. Jack's voice was flat, emotionless. If that's a crime, arrest me. Otherwise, I'd like to go home. The agent studied him for a long moment. You're not in any trouble, Commander. What you did tonight, it was extraordinary. We've been trying to catch Dominguez for years. Then we're done. One more thing. The agent leaned forward. We could use someone with your skills. Contract work. Off the books. The kind of missions that... No. You didn't let me finish. I don't need to. I know what you're offering, and the answer is no. I came to these mountains to disappear, not to sign up for more wet work. Fair enough. The agent handed him a card. But if you change your mind, I won't. Jack whistled for Ranger and walked out of the mobile command center. Sarah caught up with him at the edge of the clearing. Wait. He stopped but didn't turn. I never thanked you for saving my life. You don't need to thank me. I did what anyone would do. No, you did what no one else could do. She moved around to face him. I've been a cop for 12 years. I've never seen anything like what you did tonight. Those men, they were professionals, killers, and you went through them like they were nothing. I had training. You had more than training. Sarah's voice softened. You have something else, something that makes you different. Jack finally met her eyes. In them, he saw exhaustion, trauma, grief, and something else. Recognition. You lost someone, he said. It wasn't a question. My husband, 2 years ago. Dominguez. Yes, he ordered the hit. 17 bullets in front of our precinct. Her voice cracked. I transferred here to get away from the memories. Ended up walking right into his operation. That wasn't accident. What do you mean? You came to these mountains because you knew he had operations here. You were looking for him. Don't pretend otherwise. Sarah was silent for a moment. Then she laughed a bitter, broken sound. That obvious? To someone who's done the same thing. Yes. What are you running from? Jack didn't answer immediately. He looked at the sky, at the stars wheeling overhead, at the same constellations Elena had loved. My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. She made me promise to find peace, to stop being a weapon. He paused. I'm still working on that. Looks like you're not doing a great job. Tonight was an exception. Was it? Jack looked at her. Really looked. Saw the strength beneath the trauma, the fire that hadn't been extinguished despite everything. Go home, Officer Mitchell. Hold your daughter. Tell her you love her. That's more important than anything else. How did you know about my daughter? I read your file. 2 years ago when Daniel was killed, I was interested in the case. Why? Because the cartel that killed your husband is the same one that funded the warlord who got half my team killed in Afghanistan. Jack's voice hardened. We've been circling the same enemy for years without knowing it. Sarah stared at him. You're saying... I'm saying Victor Dominguez isn't just a drug lord. He's part of something bigger. Something that stretches across continents and involves people far more powerful than him. And you're going to bring them down. No. I'm going to live in my cabin, chop wood, and try to keep my promise to my wife. Jack turned to leave. But if they come for me, I'll be ready. Jack. He paused. What if I need help? What if this isn't over? Then find me. You know where I live. He looked back one last time. But only if it's real. Only if lives are on the line. I'm not interested in games. I don't play games. Good. Neither do I. He walked into the darkness, Ranger at his heels. Sarah watched until he disappeared into the trees, a ghost returning to the shadows. She should have felt relief. Victor was in custody. The case was closed. Justice, or something like it, had been served. Instead, she felt the weight of everything Jack had said. This isn't over. Something bigger. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in 2 years. Agent Torres. It's Sarah Mitchell. We need to talk. The line crackled. About Victor Dominguez. About the people behind him. A pause. How soon can you get to Denver? Sarah looked at the forest where Jack had disappeared. Tomorrow morning. But I'm bringing someone with me. Who? A ghost. Someone who knows things we don't. Can he be trusted? Sarah remembered the look in Jack's eyes when he stood over Victor. The cold certainty. The absolute control. He can be trusted to do what's right. even when it's hard. That's not the same as being trusted. In this case, it's close enough. She ended the call and walked toward the waiting patrol car. Tomorrow she would begin the next phase of the investigation. Tonight, she would hold her daughter and thank God for the stranger who had saved her life. And somewhere in the mountains, Jack Reeves sat by his fire, Ranger curled at his feet, staring at a photograph of a woman who had asked him to be something more than a weapon. "I tried, Elena," he whispered, "but some battles find you." The fire crackled. Ranger's ears twitched, and in the silence of the frozen forest, a new war was about to begin. Sarah Mitchell didn't sleep that night. She sat in her living room, her daughter Maya asleep in the next room, surrounded by files and photographs she had gathered over 2 years. Daniel's investigation. Her own notes. The web of connections that led from a street-level drug operation in Chicago to something far larger, far darker. And now, a new piece of the puzzle. Commander Jack Reeves. She had pulled his military record, what she could access anyway. Most of it was classified, redacted, or simply didn't exist. But the fragments painted a picture: 18 years in the team's multiple commendations, 3 Purple Hearts, and a final deployment in Afghanistan that ended with his entire unit dead and Jack medically retired. The same deployment that, according to Jack, was connected to Victor Dominguez. Her phone rang. Private number. "Mitchell. Officer Mitchell, this is Special Agent Maria Torres, DEA. The voice was crisp, professional. "We spoke earlier about the Dominguez case." "I remember. What's happening?" Victor talked. 2 hours ago, he started naming names in exchange for protection. Sarah's blood went cold. Protection from who? That's the problem. He says there's someone above him. Someone he calls the Shepherd. Claims this person controls half the drug traffic in North America and has assets in every law enforcement agency from local PD to the FBI. Do you believe him? I believe he's terrified. I've never seen a cartel boss this scared. He's asking for witness protection, full immunity, the works. What does he want in return? He wants to give us the Shepherd. Says he can provide evidence, locations, financial records, everything we need to bring down the entire network. Sarah leaned back in her chair. That's convenient. Too convenient. That's why I'm calling you. Torres paused. You were there when he was captured. You saw how the operation went down. Do you trust the man who took him, this Commander Reeves? With my life, he saved it. Can you bring him to Denver? We need his statement, and I'd like to assess him personally. I can try. He's not exactly the cooperative type. Make him understand what's at stake. If Victor is telling the truth about the Shepherd, we're dealing with something that goes beyond drugs. We're talking about a shadow government within our government. Sarah thought about Jack's words from earlier. Something bigger. Something that stretches across continents. I'll talk to him. Tomorrow, Federal Building, 9th floor, 8 a.m. We'll be there. She hung up and stared at the ceiling. The Shepherd. 2 years ago, Daniel had mentioned that name, just once in passing before he was killed. She had dismissed it as cartel mythology, a boogeyman used to scare lower-level operatives. Now she wasn't so sure. She checked on Maya, 2 years old, dark hair like her father, sleeping peacefully. Unaware that her mother had almost died tonight, then grabbed her jacket and keys. It was time to find the ghost. Jack's cabin was 5 miles from the nearest road, accessible only by a trail that wound through dense forest and across a frozen stream. Sarah made the hike in 2 hours, her flashlight cutting through the pre-dawn darkness, her breath fogging in the cold. She found him on the porch, Ranger at his feet, as if he had been expecting her. You should be with your daughter, Jack said without looking up. I need your help. I gave my help. Victor's in custody. My part is done. Victor talked. He's giving up his boss in exchange for protection. Now Jack looked at her. What boss? Someone called the Shepherd. According to Victor, this person controls everything: drugs, weapons, human trafficking, political corruption. And they have assets in every major law enforcement agency. Jack was quiet for a long moment. I know that name. How? Afghanistan. The warlord who set up the ambush that killed my team, Rashid Karimi. He mentioned the shepherd once. Said it was the person who gave him money, weapons intelligence. I thought he was lying, trying to buy time. What happened to Karimi? I killed him. Jack's voice was flat. 6 hours after my team died. Tracked him to his compound and put a bullet through his skull. And you never followed up on the shepherd? I was in a hospital for 3 months. Then my wife got sick. Then she died. He stood moving to the edge of the porch. I had other priorities. Well, now you don't. The DEA wants to meet with you tomorrow morning in Denver. No. Jack, I said no. I'm done with that world. Done with agencies and operations and classified briefings. I came here to disappear, and that's what I intend to do. Sarah climbed the steps to stand beside him. You said some battles find you. This is one of them. This isn't my battle. Your team died because of the shepherd. My husband died because of the shepherd. How many more people have to die before you care? I care. I just don't see how adding my voice to a choir of bureaucrats changes anything. Because you're not a bureaucrat. You're a weapon, and right now we need one. Jack turned to face her. His eyes were hard, but something flickered behind them, something that looked almost like interest. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come to Denver. Listen to what Victor has to say. Help us understand what we're dealing with. Sarah held his gaze. And if it turns out the shepherd is real, help us take them down. That could take months, years. I've got time. My husband is dead. My daughter is 2 years old. I've got nothing but time and a burning desire to see the people who destroyed my family brought to justice. Jack studied her for a long moment. You remind me of someone. Your wife. Myself, 18 years ago when I first joined the teams. He shook his head. That's not a compliment. That version of me got a lot of people killed. And this version of you saved my life. I'll take my chances. Ranger stood and padded over to Sarah, pressing his head against her leg. She scratched behind his ears automatically. He likes you, Jack said. He has good taste. He has terrible taste. He also likes chasing squirrels and eating garbage. Despite everything, Sarah laughed. It surprised her. Laughter felt foreign after the night she'd had. 8 a.m., she said. Federal Building, 9th floor. I'll be waiting in the lobby. I haven't said yes. You haven't said no either. That's progress. She turned and started back down the trail. Mitchell. She paused. If I come and I'm not saying I will, there are rules. I don't work for the government anymore. I don't take orders. And if I decide the situation is compromised, I'm gone. Fair enough. One more thing. What? Your husband's investigation, the files he gathered. Where are they? Safety deposit box in Chicago. Why? Because if Victor is really giving up the shepherd, someone will try to stop him. And when that happens, we're going to need every piece of evidence we can find. You think they'll kill him? I think the shepherd didn't build an empire by leaving witnesses alive. Jack's voice was grim. Victor's on borrowed time. So are we, probably. Then we'd better move fast. We'd better move smart. Fast gets people killed. Smart keeps them alive. Sarah nodded and disappeared into the darkness. Jack watched her go, Ranger whining softly at his side. I know, boy. I know. He went back inside and pulled out a duffel bag he hadn't touched in 3 years. Inside were the tools of his old trade weapons communications gear documents under 3 different names and enough cash to disappear to any country on Earth. He had sworn never to use them again. But some promises couldn't be kept. Not when the enemy was still out there. The Denver Federal Building was a fortress of glass and concrete, surrounded by security checkpoints and surveillance cameras. Jack arrived at 7:45, wearing civilian clothes, but carrying himself like what he was, a predator in a building full of prey. Sarah met him in the lobby, looking exhausted but determined. A badge hung from her neck, granting her temporary access to the secure floors above. "You came." "I came. Doesn't mean I'm staying." "It's a start." She led him toward the elevators. Torres is waiting upstairs. She's running point on the debriefing. "What about Victor?" "Being held in a secure location. We won't see him today, just review his statements and assess the credibility of his claims." They rode the elevator in silence. Ranger sat between them, calm but alert, drawing curious glances from the other passengers. "Service dog," Jack said flatly when someone opened their mouth to object. "Medical necessity." No one argued. The ninth floor was a maze of cubicles and conference rooms populated by agents in suits and analysts in casual wear. They moved with the harried energy of people chasing something that stayed perpetually out of reach. Agent Torres met them at the end of a corridor. She was in her early 40s, dark-haired with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a handshake that could crush walnuts. "Commander Reeves, thank you for coming." "I'm here to listen, that's all." "Fair enough, this way." She led them to a secure conference room with reinforced walls and no windows. Inside, 3 other agents sat around a table covered with documents, photographs, and digital displays. "This is everything Victor has given us so far," Torres said. "Financial records spanning 15 years, shell companies in 6 countries, political donations to both parties, and a list of assets people. The Shepherd controls that includes 3 senators, 2 federal judges, and the deputy director of the FBI. Jack picked up one of the photographs. It showed a man in his 60s, silver-haired, distinguished, wearing the robes of a Supreme Court justice. "This is Marcus Webb. He's on this list." According to Victor, Webb has been in the Shepherd's pocket for 20 years. He was put on the court specifically to protect cartel interests. And no one noticed. The Shepherd is patient. They don't ask for favors often, but when they do, they get results. Jack set down the photograph. "Who is the Shepherd does Victor know?" "He claims he's only met them once in person 5 years ago. A private meeting in Colombia." Description: male, late 50s, American accent. Victor says he looked ordinary, not memorable, the kind of person you'd pass on the street without a second glance. That's not much to go on. It's more than we had yesterday. Victor also gave us a location, a compound in the mountains of Montana, where the Shepherd supposedly coordinates operations. "We're planning a reconnaissance mission." "Planning or doing?" "Planning. We need to verify the intel first. If Victor is setting us up." "He's not setting you up. He's too scared to lie." Torres raised an eyebrow. "You sound certain." "I am. I saw his face when I captured him. That wasn't calculation. That was terror. Whatever the Shepherd is, Victor is more afraid of them than of prison." Sarah leaned forward. "What about my husband's case? Is there any connection?" Torres hesitated. "That's complicated." "Uncomplicate it." Officer Mitchell's investigation touched on some of the same networks Victor has described. His undercover work in Chicago, it wasn't just about drugs. He was tracking money flows that led to Washington. That's why he was killed. Sarah's face went pale. "Are you saying he knew about the Shepherd?" "I'm saying he was getting close. Too close." Torres pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "This is his final report, the one he was going to submit the day he died. It was intercepted before it reached the Bureau." "Intercepted by who?" "By someone inside the FBI. We don't know who." The room went silent. Jack spoke first. "You have a mole." "We have multiple moles. That's what Victor's list suggests." Torres rubbed her eyes. "The Shepherd has been infiltrating law enforcement for decades. Anyone could be compromised. That's why I reached out to Officer Mitchell directly instead of going through normal channels." "And me?" Jack asked. "Why am I here?" "Because you're the only person in this room who isn't connected to any agency. You have no career to protect, no superiors to answer to, no loyalty to anything except your own conscience. If the operation is compromised, you're our failsafe. You want me to be your assassin. I want you to be our insurance. If things go wrong, if the Shepherd's people try to shut this down, I need someone who can operate outside the system. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood. I'll do it. On one condition. Name it. When we find the Shepherd, I'm the one who takes them down. Not the courts. Not the justice system. Me. Torres shook her head. I can't authorize. I'm not asking for authorization. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Jack's voice was cold. This person killed my team. They killed Officer Mitchell's husband. They've been destroying lives for decades while hiding behind money and power. The courts won't touch them. Even if we somehow get a conviction, they'll spend 10 years in a minimum security resort before getting pardoned by someone they own. That's not how the system works. That's exactly how the system works. You know it. I know it. The only way to stop someone like the Shepherd is to remove them permanently. Sarah spoke up. He's right. Torres turned to her. You're a police officer. You're supposed to believe in the law. I believed in the law when my husband was murdered in broad daylight, and no one was ever charged. I believed in the law when the investigation was buried because of insufficient evidence. I believed in the law for 2 years while I watched the people responsible get richer and more powerful. Sarah's voice cracked. I'm done believing. I want results. Torres looked between them, the haunted seal with blood on his hands, and the grieving widow who had finally stopped hoping for justice from a broken system. If anyone asks, this conversation never happened. Agreed. And if you get caught, I never met you. Understood. Torres nodded slowly. Then we have a deal. But first we need to verify Victor's intel. The compound in Montana, I'm sending a reconnaissance team in 48 hours. Send me instead, Jack said. I work better alone. It's a 3-day hike through wilderness, heavily guarded, multiple layers of security. I've done worse. With backup, with my dog. Ranger's ears perked up at the mention. Torres studied him for a long moment. You're serious? I spent 6 months in these mountains learning every trail, every hiding spot, every advantage the terrain offers. I can move faster alone than any team you could assemble. And if I'm caught, there's no connection to this agency. If you're caught, you're dead. Then I won't get caught. Sarah grabbed his arm. Jack, this is insane. Let me come with you. No. I can help. You can help by being here when I get back, by taking care of your daughter, by making sure someone is left to fight if I don't make it. Jack's voice softened. You've already lost your husband to this war. Don't make your daughter lose her mother too. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I hate you for being right. I know. Torres stood. If we're doing this, we need to move fast. Victor's intel suggests the Shepherd is planning something big, something that's supposed to happen in the next 2 weeks. We don't know what, but the communications suggest it's going to change everything. Then I leave tonight. You'll need supplies, maps, communications gear. I have supplies. Just give me the coordinates. Torres handed him a tablet with a topographical map displayed. Jack studied it for 30 seconds, then handed it back. I've got it. You memorized, I've got it. Torres shook her head. Seals. Retired SEAL. Doesn't seem like it from where I'm standing. Jack turned to leave, then paused at the door. If I'm not back in 5 days, assume I'm dead. Don't send rescue. Don't investigate. Just take whatever evidence you have and burn the Shepherd's network to the ground. And if you succeed, then you'll know. Everyone will know. He walked out, Ranger at his heels. Sarah watched him go, a knot of fear and admiration tangling in her chest. He's going to get himself killed, she said quietly. Maybe. Or maybe he's going to do what no one else could. Torres gathered the files on the table. Either way, we need to be ready. If Jack finds proof that the shepherd exists, we're going to need every ally we can get. What can I do? Go to Chicago, get your husband's files from that safety deposit box, bring them back here. And then we pray that Commander Reeves is as good as his record suggests. Sarah nodded and headed for the door. Officer Mitchell. She paused. Your husband was a hero. I want you to know that. What he uncovered, what he died trying to expose, it mattered. It still matters. I know. That's why I'm still fighting. She left the building and stepped into the cold Denver morning. 2,000 miles away, her husband's files waited in a locked box. Somewhere in the Montana wilderness, a compound held the answers she had been seeking for 2 years. And walking into the heart of darkness, a ghost and his German shepherd prepared to do what they did best: survive and kill. Jack reached the trailhead at sunset. He had driven 4 hours north from Denver, stopping only to fuel up and buy provisions. The route he had chosen was deliberately obscure back roads and Forest Service paths that wouldn't appear on any GPS. Ranger sat in the passenger seat, alert and eager, sensing that something was about to happen. You ready, boy? The German shepherd's tail wagged. Yeah, me too. Jack shouldered his pack and set off into the wilderness. The compound was 40 miles northeast according to Victor's coordinates. 3 days of hiking through terrain that would kill an unprepared man. No trails, no support, no margin for error. He had done worse, much worse. As he walked, he thought about Elena, about her smile, about the way she used to laugh at his jokes, even the bad ones, about the last words she ever said to him, "Promise me you'll find peace." "I'm trying," he whispered to the stars, "but some things are more important than peace." The forest swallowed him whole, and behind him, the world waited to see if he would emerge. The first day was uneventful. Jack moved at a steady pace, Ranger scouting ahead, stopping only when necessary. He ate cold rations, drank from streams, slept in 2-hour shifts, with the dog standing watch. On the second day, he found the first patrol. 2 men armed with automatic rifles moving through the forest on a predetermined route. Jack watched them from cover, timing their patterns, noting their equipment and communication protocols. Professional, well-trained, not cartel thugs. These were former military private contractors, the kind of men who sold their skills to the highest bidder. The shepherd had resources. Serious resources. Jack let them pass and continued north. On the third day, he reached the compound. It was larger than he expected, a cluster of buildings hidden in a natural valley, surrounded by razor wire and motion sensors, guarded by at least 20 armed personnel. Vehicles came and went through a single checkpoint, and helicopters landed on a pad near the main structure. This wasn't just a hideout. This was a command center. Jack spent 6 hours observing, photographing, documenting everything he could see. Guard rotations, entry points, communication arrays, vehicle identification. Then he saw something that made his blood freeze. A convoy arrived just after dark, 3 black SUVs with government plates. Men in suits emerged, flanked by armed escorts, and were welcomed by someone Jack recognized from the files Torres had shown him. Marcus Webb, Supreme Court Justice, supposedly one of the most powerful men in America. And he was walking into the shepherd's compound like he owned the place. Jack's hand moved to his rifle. One shot. He could end it right now. Take out Webb and anyone standing near him. It would be chaos, but it would send a message. But then he saw someone else exit the last SUV. A woman, older, silver-haired, moving with the careful grace of someone who expected the world to bend around her. Sarah had shown him that face in the files. Senator Catherine Walsh, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, one of the most influential politicians in Washington. She wasn't supposed to be on Victor's list. But here she was, standing in the heart of the enemy's operation, shaking hands with a Supreme Court justice like they were old friends, which meant Victor's list was incomplete. The conspiracy was even bigger than anyone knew. Jack lowered his rifle and reached for his camera. He needed proof. He needed documentation. He needed to get this information back to Torres before the shepherd realized they were being watched. He photographed everything Walsh-Webb the guards the vehicles. Every detail that could be used to build a case to expose the truth to bring down the empire. Then he started moving back toward the tree line. He had taken 3 steps when Ranger growled. Jack froze. Behind him, a voice said, "Don't move." He turned slowly. 3 men stood in the shadows, weapons raised. They wore tactical gear and night vision goggles, and they moved with the precision of people who did this for a living. "Hands in the air, now!" Jack raised his hands. "The camera, drop it." He didn't drop it. Instead, he pressed a button on its side, a tiny gesture barely visible. The camera's contents transmitted instantly to a satellite uplink in his pack. Whatever happened next, the evidence was safe. "I said drop it." "You can have the camera, but I should warn you there are copies." The lead man stepped forward. His face was hard-scarred, the face of someone who had seen violence and grown to love it. "Who are you?" "Nobody important." "You're military. I can tell by the way you stand." "Special forces." "Something like that." "Doesn't matter. You're coming with us." He gestured to his men. "Search him. Take the dog, too." Ranger snarled. "Easy, boy," Jack said quietly. "Not yet." One of the men approached, reaching for Jack's pack. He never saw the strike coming. Jack moved in a blur elbow to the throat knife-drawn blade across the second man's arm. The third raised his weapon, but Ranger was already airborne, 70 pounds of muscle and teeth, driving him to the ground. 5 seconds. 3 men neutralized. Jack stood over them, barely breathing hard. "I told you there are copies." He retrieved his camera, collected their weapons, and disappeared into the darkness. Behind him, the compound's alarms began to wail. But by the time the search parties mobilized, Jack Reeves was already gone. A ghost in the wilderness, a wolf among sheep. And he was just getting started. Jack ran through the darkness for 6 hours straight. Behind him, search parties combed the forest with flashlights and dogs. Helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights cutting through the trees like accusatory fingers. Radio chatter crackled through the night coordinates and commands, and the desperate voices of men who had just realized their fortress wasn't impenetrable. But Jack knew this terrain. He had spent 6 months learning every ridge, every valley, every hidden path that wound through the wilderness. The searchers were looking for a man who would panic, who would run blindly, who would make mistakes. They weren't prepared for a ghost. By dawn, he was 15 miles from the compound, crouched in a ravine, with Ranger pressed against his side. The German shepherd's breathing was steady, his tan and black coat streaked with mud and pine needles, his amber eyes alert despite the exhaustion. "Good boy," Jack whispered. "We made it." He pulled out his satellite phone and dialed the secure number Torres had given him. 3 rings, then her voice tight with tension. "Reeves, I'm clear. The intel is transmitted. Did you receive it?" "We got it. The photos are being analyzed now." A pause. "Jack, what you found, it's bigger than we thought." "I know. I saw Walsh and Webb. They were at the compound." "It's not just them. We've been cross-referencing the faces in your photographs with our databases. So far, we've identified 3 senators, 2 congressmen, a deputy attorney general, and the director of Homeland Security." Jack's blood went cold. "The director of Homeland Security." "Raymond Cole, appointed 2 years ago. Clean record, sterling reputation. And he was shaking hands with a known cartel lieutenant in your photographs. The shepherd isn't just a criminal. They've built a parallel government." "That's what we're afraid of." Torres's voice dropped. "There's something else. Victor Dominguez was found dead in his cell this morning." Jack closed his eyes. "How?" "Officially suicide. Unofficially, someone got to him. The guard saw nothing. The cameras malfunctioned for exactly 7 minutes. When they came back online, Victor was hanging from the ceiling with a bedsheet around his neck. Someone inside the facility. Someone inside everything. We don't know who to trust anymore." Torres paused. Where's Officer Mitchell? Chicago. Getting her husband's files. You need to warn her. If the shepherd knows Victor talked, they'll be cleaning up every loose end. Sarah's husband's investigation, whatever he found, it makes her a target. I'll call her. Jack. Torres's voice hardened. Be careful who you contact. Use only the secure channels I gave you. Assume every other communication is compromised. Understood. He ended the call and immediately dialed Sarah's burner phone. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. A cold knot formed in his stomach. Come on, Ranger. We need to move. Sarah had landed in Chicago 3 hours ago. The safety deposit box was in a small bank on the south side, the kind of neighborhood where people minded their own business and asked no questions. Daniel had chosen it specifically for that reason. Anonymity was worth more than convenience when you were investigating something that could get you killed. She signed in with the alias Daniel had set up years ago, passed the security checks, and was escorted to the vault. The box was small, maybe 12 inches long. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside were 3 items: a flash drive, a leather journal, and a photograph of their wedding day. Sarah picked up the photograph first. Daniel young and handsome in his dress uniform, smiling at the camera with all the hope of a man who believed in the future. She had worn her mother's dress, altered to fit, and they had danced until midnight. That was 5 years ago. A lifetime ago. She tucked the photograph into her jacket, then opened the journal. Daniel's handwriting filled the pages. Dates, names, locations, observations. A meticulous chronicle of his undercover work, tracing the drug money from Chicago's streets to the halls of power. And on the last page, circled 3 times a single name: Shepherd. Beneath it, a note. The source of everything. Not a person, an organization. Leadership unknown. Connected to DOJ, DHS Senate Intel Committee. Military contracts. Black sites. Everything. Sarah's hands shook as she read. Daniel had known. He had figured it out piece by piece, and he had died before he could expose the truth. She closed the journal and reached for the flash drive. I wouldn't do that if I were you. She spun around. 3 men stood in the vault doorway. They wore suits, not the tactical gear of cartel enforcers, but their eyes held the same cold calculation. The leader was older, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone accustomed to giving orders. Officer Mitchell, he said, we've been expecting you. Who are you? Friends of your husband's investigation. Or rather, friends of the people he was investigating. He stepped forward. The flash drive, please. Go to hell. That's not very productive. He gestured to his companions. My associates have already disabled the security cameras in this building. The guards are otherwise occupied. No one is coming to help you. Sarah's hand moved toward her weapon. I wouldn't. You'll be dead before you clear the holster. The man smiled. Besides, there's no need for violence. We just want the drive. Give it to us, and you can walk out of here. Your daughter will still have a mother. How do you know about my daughter? We know everything, Officer Mitchell. We've been watching you for 2 years. Ever since your husband started asking questions he shouldn't have asked. You killed him. Victor killed him. On our instructions, yes, but Victor pulled the trigger. The man shrugged. A necessary precaution. Your husband was getting too close, just like you are now. And Victor. Was his death a necessary precaution, too? Victor talked. That was unfortunate. He should have known better. The man extended his hand. The drive. Last warning. Sarah's mind raced. 3 men, all armed, no backup, no escape route. The flash drive was her only leverage, and once she gave it up, she was dead anyway. If I give you the drive, you'll let me go. Of course, we're not savages. Prove it. Call your bosses. Put them on speaker. Let me hear them confirm it. The man hesitated. That's not how this works. Then neither is this. Sarah's hand closed around the flash drive. You need what's on here. I need to stay alive. We can make a deal, or we can both lose. You're in no position to negotiate. I'm in the only position that matters. You kill me, you lose the drive. Your bosses won't be happy about that." The man studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed. "You really are like your husband. He tried to negotiate too, right before Victor shot him 17 times. And look where that got Victor." The smile faded. "Get the drive." The two men moved toward her. Sarah made her choice. She dropped the flash drive into the safety deposit box and slammed it shut. Then she pulled her weapon and fired. The first shot caught the nearest man in the shoulder. He dropped screaming. The second shot went wide as the other man tackled her. They crashed to the floor, struggling for the gun. "Get her weapon," the leader shouted. Sarah fought with everything she had, elbows, knees, teeth. She bit down on the man's hand, and he screamed, loosening his grip. She rolled, aimed, fired. The bullet hit him in the chest. He went still. The leader drew his own weapon, but Sarah was already moving, using the vault's shelving for cover. "You can't escape," he called out. "There are more of us outside. Every exit is covered." "Then I'll make a new exit." She fired twice through the vault door, keeping his head down, and sprinted for the emergency stairwell. Behind her, she heard him speaking into a radio. "She's running. North stairwell. Intercept." Sarah took the stairs 3 at a time, her lungs burning, her heart pounding. She could hear footsteps above her, more men coming down to cut her off. She burst through a door on the 3rd floor and ran through a maze of offices empty for the weekend. Through a window, she saw a fire escape. She smashed the glass with her elbow and climbed out, dropping to the alley below. A black SUV screeched to a halt in front of her. Sarah raised her weapon. The passenger door opened. "Get in." It was a woman's voice. Familiar. Sarah stared at the driver. "Agent Torres." "How?" "No time. Get in." Sarah dove into the vehicle as bullets sparked off the pavement behind her. Torres floored the accelerator and they tore out of the alley. "How did you find me?" Jack called. "Said you weren't answering your phone." Torres wove through traffic, checking her mirrors. "I was in Chicago following up on another lead. Lucky timing." "There is no lucky timing, not with these people." "I know." Torres's face was grim. "Did you get the files?" "The journal and the flash drive. I had to leave the drive in the vault, but I grabbed the journal." "That's something. What's on it?" "Everything Daniel knew. Names, dates, connections." Sarah pulled the journal from her jacket, including proof that the Shepherd isn't just a person, it's an organization, and it's been embedded in the government for decades. "We know. Jack's photographs confirmed it." Torres took a hard right, narrowly avoiding a truck. "But there's more. Something Jack found that changes everything." "What?" "The Shepherd has a plan, something big. We intercepted communications from the compound. They're moving on something called Operation Clean Slate in the next 72 hours. "What is it?" "We don't know yet, but based on the chatter it involves multiple simultaneous actions. Political assassinations maybe, or a coordinated attack on federal institutions." Torres's voice dropped. "Whatever it is, it's designed to consolidate power, to eliminate anyone who might expose them. We have to stop it. That's what we're trying to do, but we don't know who to trust." Torres glanced at her. "Jack wants to meet. He's on his way back from Montana. Says he has a plan." "What kind of plan?" "The kind that involves burning down the Shepherd's entire network, starting with the people at the top." "How?" "By going public. All of it, the photographs, Victor's testimony, your husband's investigation. We broadcast everything simultaneously to every major news outlet in the country. Make it impossible to suppress." "They'll deny it. They control half the government." "That's where Jack comes in. He's not just going to release evidence." Torres's voice hardened. "He's going to name names, on camera, in a way that forces everyone to choose sides. That'll make him a target." "He's already a target. We all are. Torres pulled into an underground parking garage and killed the engine. But Jack seems to think that's a feature, not a bug. What do you mean? He said if the shepherd comes after him publicly, it proves everything we're saying is true. They can't kill him quietly, not after he's gone on record. Any attempt on his life just confirms the conspiracy. That's insane. That's strategy. Jack knows how to make himself into a weapon. Torres opened her door. Come on, we need to move. This location won't stay secure for long. They climbed 3 flights of stairs to a safe house. Torres had arranged a nondescript apartment with reinforced doors and blackout curtains. Inside, 2 other agents worked at laptop computers, monitoring communications and analyzing data. Any word from Jack? Torres asked. He's 4 hours out, coming by back roads to avoid detection. The agent looked up. But there's a problem. The shepherd's people are mobilizing. We're seeing increased activity at federal buildings in 6 cities. Something's happening. Operation Clean Slate. Maybe. Or maybe they're just spooked by Jack's reconnaissance. The agent frowned. Either way, we're running out of time. Sarah sat heavily in a chair. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by exhaustion and fear. My daughter, she said. Where is she? With your mother in Denver. We have agents watching them, but they don't know they're being protected. Torres handed her a secure phone. You can call, but keep it short. No specifics. Sarah dialed with trembling fingers. Hello? Her mother's voice concerned but calm. Mom, it's me. How's Maya? She's fine, honey. Asking where Mommy is. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Tell her Mommy loves her. Tell her I'll be home soon. Sarah, what's going on? You sound... I can't explain now. Just stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone you don't know. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, call this number. She read off the contact Torres had given her. Promise me. You're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. But I need you to trust me. A long pause. Then, I trust you. I always have. I love you, Mom. Kiss Maya for me. She ended the call before her voice could break. Torres put a hand on her shoulder. We'll keep them safe. Can you promise that? No. But I can promise that Jack and I will do everything in our power to end this. And when it's over, you'll be able to live without looking over your shoulder. And if it doesn't work? Torres was quiet for a moment. Then we die knowing we tried. That's more than most people can say. Jack arrived at midnight, looking like he had walked through hell. His navy camouflage was torn and stained, his face gaunt with exhaustion. But his eyes were clear, and when he spoke, his voice was steady. What's the status? They tried to grab Sarah in Chicago. She got out with the journal, but had to leave the flash drive. Does the journal have what we need? Sarah handed it to him. Jack flipped through the pages, his expression darkening with each revelation. Daniel knew everything. Names, dates, financial connections. He traced the shepherd's money all the way to the top. Can we use it? We can use it to corroborate the photographs. But there's still a problem. We don't know who the shepherd is. The organization, yes. But the person who runs it, still a mystery. Torres pulled up a map on her laptop. That's where Victor's final statement comes in. Before he died, he told us about a meeting. Every 5 years, the shepherd's inner circle gathers at a specific location to coordinate strategy. The next meeting is in 3 days. Where? A private island in the Bahamas, owned by a shell company that traces back to a hedge fund, that traces back to a military contractor, that traces back to... Torres paused. The office of the Vice President. The room went silent. Jack spoke first. You're saying the Vice President of the United States is the shepherd. I'm saying the Vice President is connected to the organization. Whether he's the leader or just a participant, we don't know. Torres closed her laptop. But if we can get evidence from that meeting, recordings, photographs, anything, we can bring down the entire network. How do we get on the island? That's the problem. Security is impenetrable. Private military contractors, electronic surveillance, no-fly zone for miles. Even if we could get close, we'd never make it inside. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. You're thinking about the wrong approach. What do you mean? You're thinking like law enforcement. Surveillance evidence, legal procedure. Jack leaned forward. I'm thinking like a SEAL. We don't need to get inside to destroy them. We just need to make them destroy themselves. How? By letting them know we're coming. By making so much noise that they panic and make mistakes. By forcing them to reveal themselves while the whole world is watching. Sarah shook her head. That's suicide. It's strategy. The shepherd has survived for decades by staying hidden, by controlling information, by eliminating threats quietly. Jack's eyes hardened. We take away their silence. We broadcast everything we know, the photographs, the journal, Victor's testimony. We name the vice president, the senators, the judges. All of it. They'll deny everything. Of course they will. But then we announce that we're going to crash their meeting. That we have operatives on the way to the island right now. That we're going to capture everything on video and stream it live to the entire world. You don't have operatives. They don't know that. All they know is that someone penetrated their compound in Montana, killed 3 of their men, and escaped with evidence. They're scared. For the first time in their history, they're scared. Jack stood. We use that fear. We make them panic. And when they panic, they make mistakes. Torres considered this. You want to bluff them into exposing themselves. I want to give them a choice. Cancel the meeting and scatter, which confirms that everything we've said is true. Or continue with the meeting and risk being captured on camera, which also confirms everything we've said is true. Jack shrugged. Either way, we win. Unless they decide to eliminate us first. They'll try. That's the point. Every move they make against us is evidence of the conspiracy. Every assassination attempt, every cover-up, every lie, it all proves that we're telling the truth. And if they succeed in killing us, then someone else picks up the torch. We're not the only people who know the truth now. The photographs are saved in multiple locations. The journal has been copied. The evidence is out there, spreading, impossible to contain. Jack's voice softened. We've already won in a sense. Even if we die, the truth survives. Sarah stood and faced him. You're asking us to become martyrs. I'm asking you to become warriors. There's a difference. Jack met her eyes. Your husband was a warrior. He knew the risks, and he took them anyway, because some things are worth dying for. He died for nothing. Victor walked free for 2 years. And now Victor's dead. The shepherd is exposed. Their network is crumbling. Jack put his hand on her shoulder. Daniel's sacrifice mattered. It matters now more than ever. Because without his investigation, we wouldn't have the pieces we needed to finish this. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I'm not as brave as he was. Yes, you are. You just don't know it yet. Jack turned to Torres. How long do we have? 72 hours until the meeting, maybe less. Then we have 72 hours to make our move. Jack looked at the team around him. Get me every news outlet that will listen. Every journalist who isn't compromised. Every whistleblower platform, every independent media organization, every voice that can't be silenced. And then we tell the world everything, and we let the shepherd decide how they want to die, in darkness or in light. The press conference was held the next morning. Jack stood before a bank of cameras, still in his torn navy camouflage Ranger sitting at his side. Sarah stood behind him with Torres and a handful of federal agents who had agreed to go on record. The audience was small, but significant representatives from every major network, several independent journalists, and a live feed streaming to millions online. My name is Commander Jack Reeves, United States Navy SEALs, retired, he began. For the past week, I have been investigating an organization known as the Shepherd, a criminal enterprise that has infiltrated every level of the American government. He clicked a remote, and photographs appeared on the screen behind him. These images were taken at a compound in Montana 3 days ago. You will recognize some of the faces: Supreme Court Justice Marcus Webb, Senator Catherine Walsh, Deputy Attorney General Thomas Reed, Director of Homeland Security Raymond Cole. Gasps from the audience. Each of these individuals has direct ties to drug trafficking, weapons smuggling, and political corruption. They are not victims of the shepherd. They are the shepherd. He clicked again. More photographs. These are financial records showing payments from cartel accounts to political campaigns, judicial appointments, and federal contracts. These are communications intercepted by federal agents, proving coordination between cartel leaders and government officials. This is the evidence of a shadow government operating within our own. The room was silent. In 3 days, the shepherd's inner circle will gather at a private location in the Bahamas to coordinate their next phase of operations. We have intelligence suggesting they are planning something called Operation Clean Slate, a series of actions designed to eliminate anyone who might expose their crimes. Jack paused, letting the weight of his words settle. I am here to tell the shepherd that we know who they are. We know what they're planning, and we will not be silenced. He looked directly into the camera. To the Vice President of the United States, to the senators and judges and generals who have sold their souls to this organization, your time is over. The evidence is out. The world is watching. There is nowhere left to hide. He stepped back from the podium. I will take no questions, but I will make one promise. If anything happens to me, or to anyone standing behind me, the full weight of this evidence will be released to every law enforcement agency and media outlet on the planet. We have made arrangements to ensure that our deaths will not silence the truth. He saluted the camera. God bless America, and God help those who have betrayed her. The room erupted in chaos, but Jack was already gone, slipping out through a back door with Sarah and Ranger at his side. The battle had begun, and the shepherd was about to learn what happened when you threatened a wolf. Within hours, the response came. The Vice President issued a statement denying any connection to the shepherd. Justice Webb threatened to sue for defamation. Senator Walsh called for Jack's arrest on charges of sedition and espionage. But the evidence was spreading faster than they could contain it. Social media exploded with analysis of the photographs. Independent journalists began digging into the financial records. Former intelligence officers came forward to corroborate pieces of the story. And in the halls of power, panic began to set in. They're scrambling, Torres reported from the safe house. We're seeing unusual activity at multiple federal agencies. The Director of Homeland Security just canceled all his appointments. Senator Walsh flew to an undisclosed location for security reasons. They're running, Jack said. Or regrouping. We don't know which. Sarah looked up from her laptop. There's something else. The Bahamas meeting, I've been monitoring chatter on the channels Daniel used to track. The meeting hasn't been canceled. You're sure? Positive. They're still planning to go through with it, despite everything we've revealed. Jack frowned. That doesn't make sense. Why would they expose themselves like that? Maybe they think they can still control the narrative, or maybe... Sarah's face went pale. Maybe they're planning to eliminate us before the meeting happens. How? Operation Clean Slate. What if it's not about political assassinations? What if it's about us? Torres pulled up her communications software. Let me check something. She typed rapidly, accessing encrypted channels that Jack didn't ask about. Oh God. What? Clean Slate isn't an assassination program, it's a purge. Torres looked up. They're planning to arrest everyone connected to this investigation. Jack, Sarah, me, the agents who testified. They've prepared warrants accusing us of domestic terrorism. On what grounds? Fabricated evidence. They're claiming Jack's photographs were doctored, that Victor's testimony was coerced, that the whole thing is a foreign intelligence operation designed to destabilize the government. Can they make that stick? With the people they control, yes. Torres stood. They're going to arrest us, disappear us into black sites where no one will ever find us. And by the time anyone realizes what happened, it'll be too late. Jack was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. Perfect. Perfect. They're going to make us disappear. No, they're going to try. Jack turned to face the team. And when they do, they'll prove everything we've been saying. An illegitimate arrest conducted by compromised officials targeting the people who exposed a government conspiracy. That's not suppression. That's confirmation. We'll still be in custody. We'll still be alive. And as long as we're alive, we can fight. Jack's eyes hardened. But we need to control the timing. We need to be the ones who decide when and how they take us. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we give them what they want. We surrender publicly on camera with the whole world watching. We let them arrest us, and we make sure everyone sees exactly what happens next. Sarah shook her head. That's insane. That's theater. The Shepherd has been winning for decades because they control the stage. We're taking it back. Jack looked at each of them in turn. Are you with me? Torres hesitated. Then she nodded. I'm with you. Sarah took longer. She thought about Maya, about the life she had planned, about the risks she was taking. Then she thought about Daniel, about his last words, tell the truth. I'm with you, she said. All the way. Jack nodded. Then let's give the Shepherd a show they'll never forget. The surrender was scheduled for the following morning. Jack chose the location carefully, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial visible to cameras accessible to the public, impossible to suppress. At precisely 10 o'clock, he walked up the steps with Sarah Torres and 6 other agents who had agreed to join them. Ranger walked at his heel as always. Waiting for them were 50 federal marshals' weapons drawn, accompanied by a phalanx of officials in dark suits. Leading them was a man Jack recognized from the photographs. Raymond Cole, Director of Homeland Security. Commander Reeves, Cole said. You're under arrest for sedition, conspiracy, and espionage. Come quietly and no one gets hurt. We'll come quietly. But first I have something to say. Jack turned to face the cameras, dozens of them from every network streaming live to millions. I am surrendering peacefully to federal authorities who I believe are acting under corrupt orders from the Shepherd organization. I am doing this publicly so that the whole world can witness what happens next. He held up his hands. I have no weapons. I pose no threat. But if anything happens to me or my colleagues, if we disappear, if we commit suicide in custody, if we're silenced in any way, let the record show that the Director of Homeland Security himself was responsible. Cole's face reddened. This is a pathetic stunt. Is it? Then you won't mind if we broadcast our detention in real time. You won't mind if independent observers accompany us to wherever you're taking us. You won't mind operating in complete transparency. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works. Unless you have something to hide. Jack smiled. Do you have something to hide, Director Cole? The cameras focused on Cole's face. The world waited. And in that moment, the balance of power shifted. Because Jack wasn't just a prisoner. He was a symbol. And symbols can't be silenced. Cole made his decision. Take them, he ordered. All of them. The marshals moved forward, handcuffs ready. Jack didn't resist. Neither did Sarah or Torres or any of the others. They went peacefully, hands raised, faces, calm eyes fixed on the cameras. As they were led to the waiting vehicles, Jack caught Sarah's eye. She was terrified. He could see it in the tension of her shoulders, the set of her jaw. But she was also resolute. They had done what they came to do. Now they just had to survive long enough to see it through. The vehicles pulled away, but the cameras kept rolling. And somewhere in the world, millions of people watched and wondered if they had just witnessed the beginning of the end for the heroes or for the villains. The answer would come soon enough. The convoy didn't take them to a federal courthouse. Jack noticed immediately when they turned south instead of east, away from the detention facilities, away from anything resembling due process. The vehicle windows were blacked out, but he had memorized the route from the Lincoln Memorial to every major government building in Washington. This wasn't one of them. "Where are they taking us?" Sarah whispered from beside him. "Nowhere good." Their hands were cuffed behind their backs, 3 marshals sitting across from them with weapons drawn. Ranger had been separated, loaded into a different vehicle, and Jack felt the absence like a missing limb. "Shut up," one of the marshals ordered. "No talking." Jack studied the man's face. Young, nervous, the kind of operative who followed orders without asking questions. Not a true believer, just someone who needed a paycheck and had stopped caring where it came from. "You know this is wrong," Jack said quietly. "Whatever they told you, we did. You know it's not true." "I said, shut up. They're going to kill us, disappear us into a black site, and make it look like we never existed. And you're going to be an accessory to murder." The marshal's jaw tightened. "You're terrorists. You attacked federal officials, leaked classified information. I'm a decorated Navy SEAL with 18 years of service to this country. She's a police officer whose husband was murdered by cartel operatives. Do we look like terrorists to you?" "It doesn't matter what you look like. It matters what the evidence says." "Evidence can be fabricated. You know that. You've probably done it yourself." The marshal's eyes flickered. Jack saw doubt there, just a crack, but enough. "When this is over, when the truth comes out, everyone who participated will be held accountable. That includes you." Jack's voice softened. "There's still time to make a different choice." "Davis, don't listen to him." Another marshal, older, harder. "He's trying to get in your head." "I'm trying to save his soul. There's a difference." The older marshal raised his weapon. "One more word and I put a bullet in your knee. They didn't say anything about delivering you undamaged." Jack went silent. But he had planted the seed. The vehicle stopped 40 minutes later. They were pulled roughly from the back, hoods thrown over their heads, and marched across what felt like concrete. Jack counted steps, memorized turns, cataloged every sound and sensation. Underground. Multiple levels. Secure facility. He could hear the hum of electronic locks and ventilation systems. A black site. Just as he'd predicted. The hood came off in a windowless room with concrete walls and a single metal chair bolted to the floor. Jack was shoved into it, his cuffs attached to a ring behind him. Director Cole stood across from him, flanked by 2 men in civilian clothes who moved like special forces. "Commander Reeves, welcome to nowhere. Impressive facility. Taxpayer-funded. You have a sense of humor. I like that. It won't last." Cole pulled up a chair and sat across from him. "Let's be clear about your situation. Officially, you don't exist anymore. The arrest at the memorial was staged, you were released into our custody, and the public believes you're being processed through normal channels. And unofficially? Unofficially, you're in a hole that the Constitution doesn't know about. No lawyers, no rights, no way out except through me. What do you want?" "The same thing you want. Resolution." Cole leaned forward. "Give me the location of your backup files. Every copy, every server, every person who has access. Do that, and this ends peacefully." "Peacefully meaning what?" "Meaning you and your friends get a quiet retirement somewhere far away. New identities, comfortable living, no interference from us. You disappear. We disappear. Everyone goes home happy." "And if I refuse?" Cole's smile didn't waver. "Then we have a different conversation. One that involves your friends in the other rooms. Officer Mitchell, for example. Lovely woman. Tragic backstory. I'd hate to see anything happen to her." Jack's hands clenched behind his back. "If you touch her, you're chained to a chair, Commander. The cavalry isn't coming. The only person who can save Sarah Mitchell is you." Cole stood. "I'll give you an hour to think about it. Consider your options carefully." He walked out. The door clanged shut with the finality of a coffin lid. Jack was alone. Sarah's interrogation was different. They put her in a room with soft lighting and comfortable chairs, a bottle of water on the table, almost civilized. The interrogator was a woman, mid-40s professional attire, the kind of face you'd trust at a PTA meeting. "Officer Mitchell, I'm Dr. Catherine Price. I'm here to help you understand your situation. My situation is that I've been illegally detained by corrupt government officials. Your situation is that you've been manipulated by a dangerous man with a history of violence." Price opened a folder. "Commander Reeves, 18 years of military service, yes, but also multiple psychological evaluations flagging concerning behavior, a history of disobeying orders, a pattern of taking matters into his own hands. He saved my life. He used you, just like he used your husband's death to further his own agenda." Price slid a photograph across the table. "Do you know what this is?" Sarah looked. It was a grainy image of Jack meeting with someone in what appeared to be a foreign country. This was taken in Pakistan 3 years ago. Commander Reeves meeting with a known Taliban intermediary, the same intermediary who arranged the ambush that killed his team. "That's not possible." "The ambush wasn't a failure, Officer Mitchell. It was a success. Reeves sold out his own men for money. When the heat got too intense, he created this elaborate conspiracy theory to cover his tracks." "You're lying." "I'm showing you evidence. The same evidence that the military used to force his early retirement. The same evidence that's been sealed to protect national security." Price's voice softened. "I know this is hard to hear. You trusted him. You believed in him. But the man you think you know doesn't exist." Sarah stared at the photograph. Her mind raced, trying to find the flaw, the inconsistency, the proof that this was fabricated. But doubt crept in. She had known Jack for less than a week. She had trusted him based on instinct, on gratitude, on shared grief. What if her instincts were wrong? "What do you want from me?" she asked quietly. "I want you to tell me where the backup files are. I want you to testify that Reeves coerced you into participating in his scheme. And I want you to go home to your daughter. And Jack. Commander Reeves will face justice for his crimes. Real justice, not the theatrical performance he staged at the memorial." Price leaned forward. "You're not a criminal, Sarah. You're a victim. Let us help you." Sarah looked at the photograph again. Jack meeting with a Taliban intermediary. The same people who killed his team. It didn't make sense. Nothing about Jack suggested he was capable of that kind of betrayal. But then again, she had been wrong before. She had trusted the system when Daniel was killed, believed that justice would prevail. And the system had failed her. What if she was failing again? What if her desperate need for an ally had blinded her to the truth? "I need time," she said. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Price stood. "But remember, every hour you delay is an hour your daughter spends without her mother. Is protecting a traitor really worth that sacrifice?" She left. Sarah sat alone staring at the photograph, wondering if everything she believed was a lie. Torres was held in a different kind of room. They didn't bother with psychological manipulation. They knew she was too experienced for that. Instead, they went straight to physical intimidation. 2 men, no names, no badges, just fists. "Agent Torres, we need the location of the backup servers." "I don't know what you're talking about." A punch to the ribs. Torres gasped, fighting to breathe. "Let's try again. The servers." "Go to hell." Another punch. Then another. "We can keep this up all night, or you can cooperate and save yourself the pain." Torres spat blood onto the floor. "I've been waterboarded by better interrogators than you. This is amateur hour. Waterboarding is too good for traitors." One of the men grabbed her hair, pulling her head back. "But there are other methods, ones that don't leave marks. Do your worst. I'm not giving you anything. Then we'll take it from someone else. Your colleague, Officer Mitchell. She has a daughter, doesn't she? 2 years old. Cute kid. Torres's blood went cold. Leave her out of this. Tell us what we want to know, and we will. Otherwise, he shrugged. Accidents happen to children all the time. Terrible tragedy. Nothing anyone could have done. Torres closed her eyes. She had been in impossible situations before, had made impossible choices. This was different. This wasn't about her own survival, it was about protecting an innocent child. The servers are distributed, she said slowly. Multiple locations, multiple redundancies. I can give you some of them, but not all. Start with what you know. On one condition. You leave Mitchell's daughter alone, completely alone. I want your word. You're not in a position to negotiate. Then neither are you. Kill me if you want, but you'll never get the information. Torres's voice hardened. I've already triggered a dead man's switch. If I don't check in within 6 hours, everything we have goes public automatically. Every file, every photograph, every piece of evidence. Straight to media outlets in 40 countries. The two men exchanged glances. She's bluffing. Am I care to test that theory? Torres smiled through bloody teeth. Tick-tock, gentlemen. 6 hours. Then the Shepherd becomes the most famous criminal organization in history. The interrogators left to consult with their superiors. Torres slumped in her chair, pain radiating through her body. She wasn't bluffing about the dead man's switch, but she also wasn't sure it would work. The system had been designed for exactly this scenario, but technology failed all the time. And the Shepherd had resources she couldn't begin to comprehend. All she could do was buy time, and hope that time was enough. Jack had been counting minutes in the darkness. 53 minutes since Cole left. 7 minutes until the deadline. He had spent the time working on his restraints using a technique he had learned in SEER training, dislocating his thumb to slip the cuff. It hurt like hell, but it worked. He was free when the door opened again. Cole entered with 2 guards expecting to find a broken prisoner ready to cooperate. Instead, he found Jack standing behind the door, the heavy metal chair raised over his head. The first guard went down before he could react. The chair smashed into his skull with a wet crack, and he crumpled to the floor. The second guard reached for his weapon. Jack was faster. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted, and drove his elbow into the guard's throat. The guard collapsed, choking. Cole stumbled backward, reaching for his own gun. Jack caught his arm and slammed him against the wall. Where are they? You're insane. You'll never get out of here. Where are they? 3rd floor, East Wing. Cole's bravado crumbled. Mitchell is in interrogation room C. Torres is in D. Please, I'm just following orders. Whose orders? Who's the Shepherd? I don't know. I've never met them. I receive instructions through intermediaries' encrypted channels. No one knows who's really in charge. Then you're useless. Jack drove his fist into Cole's temple. The director collapsed unconscious. He took the guards' weapons, 2 pistols, a taser, a keycard, and moved into the corridor. The facility was exactly what he expected. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, security cameras at every intersection. He disabled the first 3 cameras with precise shots, knowing that stealth was no longer an option. Speed was all that mattered now. He found Torres first. She was slumped in a chair, face swollen, blood dried on her lips. But her eyes lit up when she saw him. Took you long enough. Can you move? I can try. She stood shakily. Sarah. Next room. Come on. They moved through the corridor, Jack covering their advance, Torres leaning against the wall for support. The facility's alarm began to wail. Someone had discovered the unconscious guards. We need to hurry. Sarah's interrogation room was locked. Jack shot out the electronic panel and kicked the door open. She sat at the table, unharmed but pale, staring at a photograph in her hands. Sarah, let's go. She didn't move. They said you sold out your team, that the ambush was your fault. And you believe them? I don't know what to believe anymore. Jack crossed the room and knelt beside her. Look at me. She raised her eyes. I watched 12 of my brothers die that night. I held 3 of them while they bled out. I crawled through a minefield with a bullet in my shoulder and shrapnel in my leg. His voice cracked. I didn't sell anyone out. They're lying because that's what they do. Because the truth is the only weapon they can't control. How do I know you're not lying too? You don't. You can never know for certain. All you can do is trust your instincts. Jack took her hand. Your instincts brought you here. They helped you survive Victor's execution. They told you to trust me when every rational thought said to run. He paused. What are they telling you now? Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then she dropped the photograph. They're telling me to get the hell out of here. Good instincts. Let's move. They ran. The facility was 3 stories underground, accessed by a single elevator and 2 emergency stairwells. Jack led them toward the nearest stairs, his stolen pistol raised, checking corners with the precision of someone who had cleared hundreds of buildings in his career. Contact! Torres shouted. 3 guards emerged from a side corridor, weapons drawn. Jack fired twice. 2 went down. The 3rd dove for cover, squeezing off rounds that sparked against the concrete walls. Go. I'll cover. Sarah and Torres sprinted for the stairwell door. Jack laid down, suppressing fire, backing toward them step by step. The door opened. More guards poured through. Jack spun, engaging the new threat. 1 down. 2 down. But there were too many coming from both directions now. Commander Reeves. He recognized that voice. Davis, the young marshal from the transport vehicle. Jack turned. Davis stood in the corridor, weapon raised. But it wasn't pointed at Jack. It was pointed at the other guards. I said stop. Confusion rippled through the tactical team. Davis, what the hell are you doing? Something I should have done hours ago. Davis stepped forward, positioning himself between Jack and the guards. These people are innocent. They're being held illegally by people who answer to a criminal conspiracy, and I'm not going to be part of it anymore. You're throwing away your career. I'm saving my soul. There's a difference. For a moment, no one moved. Then Jack said, We need to go. Now. Davis nodded. I know another way out. Follow me. They ran through a maze of corridors, Davis leading them through service tunnels and maintenance shafts that weren't covered by the standard security protocols. The alarm still wailed, but the pursuit fell behind. Why? Sarah asked as they climbed a ladder. Why help us? Because he was right. Davis looked back at Jack. What you said in the vehicle. About being accountable. About making different choices. He paused. My father was a Marine. He taught me that honor isn't about following orders, it's about doing what's right. I forgot that, but you reminded me. Your father sounds like a good man. He was. He died believing in something. I want to do the same. They emerged into a loading dock at the back of the facility. A single van sat waiting, keys in the ignition. Get in. I'll drive. Jack hesitated. You'll be marked as a traitor. They'll come after you. Then I'll disappear. New name, new life. It's better than living with the guilt. Davis climbed into the driver's seat. Now get in before they lock this place down completely. They piled into the van. Davis gunned the engine and tore out of the loading dock, smashing through the gate and onto the access road beyond. Behind them, sirens began to wail. But ahead, the night was open, and freedom was waiting. They drove for 2 hours, switching vehicles twice, using back roads and unmarked trails to throw off pursuit. By the time the sun rose, they were in West Virginia, hiding in an abandoned farmhouse that Davis said belonged to his uncle. It's been empty for years. No one will look here. Torres collapsed onto a dusty couch, exhausted from her injuries. Sarah sat in the corner, her face haunted, still processing everything that had happened. Jack stood by the window watching the driveway. We can't stay long. They'll be searching everywhere. We need a plan, Davis said. Something beyond just running. We had a plan. It didn't survive contact with the enemy. Jack turned to face them. But the core strategy is still sound. We need to go public again, bigger, more impossible to suppress. How they've discredited us, called us terrorists. Anyone who listens to us now is automatically suspicious. Then we need to make them listen, not through press conferences or social media, through action. What kind of action? The Bahamas meeting. It's still happening, right? The Shepherd's inner circle, all in one place. As far as we know. Then we crash it, not with evidence or accusations, with our bodies. We walk into that meeting in front of everyone and we force them to respond. Torres shook her head. That's suicide. It's testimony, the most powerful kind. If they kill us in front of witnesses, they prove everything we've said is true. If they don't kill us, we've infiltrated their most secure gathering and live to tell about it. You're talking about sacrificing our lives. I'm talking about making our lives mean something. Jack's voice softened. We've been running since this started. Reacting to their moves, always one step behind. It's time to change the game, to put them on defense for once. Sarah stood. I have a daughter. I can't just... I know. And I'm not asking you to come. Jack met her eyes. You've done enough. More than enough. Go to Maya. Disappear. Let us finish this. And if you fail, then at least you'll know we tried. And you can tell the story to everyone who'll listen. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No. Sarah. I said no. I didn't come this far to sit on the sidelines while other people fight my battles. Her voice hardened. Daniel died for this. If I walk away now, his sacrifice means nothing. I won't let that happen. Torres pushed herself up from the couch. I'm in too. Someone has to keep you idiots from getting yourselves killed. Davis nodded. Count me in. I burned my bridges back there. Might as well go all the way. Jack looked at each of them. The beaten agent, the grieving widow, the turncoat marshal. An unlikely team bound together by circumstance and choice. Then we move tonight. The meeting is in 48 hours. We need to be in the Bahamas by tomorrow. How do we get there? Every airport will be watching for us. We don't use airports. I have contacts in the smuggling community, people who move things and people without asking questions. They can get us to the islands. And once we're there, we improvise. That's what SEALs do best. Sarah almost laughed. You're insane. Probably, but I'm also right. Jack picked up his pack. Get some rest. We leave at nightfall. The others settled into sleep, but Jack remained at the window, watching the sun climb higher. Somewhere out there, Ranger was still in the hands of the Shepherd. Somewhere out there, the people responsible for Elena's suffering, for Daniel's death, for Torres's beating, were planning their next move. And somewhere out there, a meeting was about to take place that would determine the fate of everyone involved. Jack had spent his whole life preparing for moments like this. Now it was time to see if that preparation was enough. The sun set behind the mountains, and the final battle began. The boat cut through Caribbean waters under cover of darkness. Jack stood at the bow, his eyes fixed on the distant lights of the private island. 36 hours of travel back roads to Florida, a midnight rendezvous with smugglers who owed him favors from his SEAL days, and now this final approach through waters that officially didn't exist on any chart. Sarah joined him, her face pale in the moonlight. Second thoughts. Constantly. She pulled her jacket tighter. But I keep thinking about Daniel, about what he would do. What would he do? Exactly what we're doing. Running toward danger instead of away from it. A sad smile. He was stubborn that way. I used to hate it. And now I understand it. Some things matter more than survival. Torres emerged from below deck, her bruises fading but still visible. We're 20 minutes out. The smuggler says he can get us within a mile of the island, but after that we're on our own. What about security? Based on the intel we have, there's a patrol boat circling the perimeter. Motion sensors along the beach. armed guards at every entrance. Torres shook her head. This place is a fortress. Every fortress has a weakness. And you know what it is. I know where to look. Jack checked his weapon, a Glock 19 that Davis had secured from his personal stash. The meeting is scheduled for midnight in the main compound. That gives us 3 hours to get in position. And do what exactly? Document everything, record every face, every conversation, and when the moment is right, we reveal ourselves. They'll kill us. They'll try, but they can't do it quietly, not with every major player in the Shepherd's organization watching. Jack's voice hardened. These people have built their empire on secrecy. We're going to burn that secrecy to the ground. Davis appeared on deck carrying a waterproof bag. Equipment's ready. Night vision comms cameras. Everything we could scrounge. What about extraction? That's the tricky part. Davis hesitated. The smuggler won't wait. Once we're on that island, we're there until we find another way off. Or until we don't need a way off anymore. Sarah looked at Jack sharply. You're expecting to die. I'm prepared for every outcome. There's a difference. No, there isn't. She stepped closer. I've lost enough people I care about. I'm not losing you too. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you saved my life. I know you could have walked away a dozen times but didn't. I know that whatever happens on that island, you're going to do the right thing. Her voice cracked. That's enough. Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. If we survive this, I'm taking you and Maya somewhere safe. Somewhere the Shepherd can never find you. And if we don't survive, then we die knowing we tried. That's more than most people get. The boat's engine cut to silent running. They were approaching the drop zone. Final check, Torres said. Everyone remember the plan. Infiltrate the compound, document the meeting, expose the Shepherd. Davis double-checked his camera equipment. Simple enough? Nothing about this is simple. Jack picked up his pack. Stay close, stay quiet, and if things go sideways, get the recordings out. No matter what happens to me. Jack, promise me, the mission comes first. Everything else is secondary. Sarah hesitated. Then she nodded. I promise. The boat slowed to a stop. Jack was the first over the side, dropping into water that was warmer than he expected. The others followed, and together they swam toward the dark shore of the Shepherd's Island. The beach was deserted, but Jack knew better than to trust appearances. He signaled the others to stay low, then moved ahead to scout the perimeter. The motion sensors were exactly where the intel suggested, spaced every 20 meters along the tree line, covering the entire approach. But there was a gap. A natural rock formation jutted out into the water, creating a blind spot in the sensor coverage. Jack had noticed it in the satellite imagery during their planning session. It was a small window, maybe 3 meters wide, but it was enough. He waved the others forward. One by one they slipped through the gap and into the jungle beyond. The vegetation was dense, the ground uneven, but Jack moved with the confidence of someone who had operated in worse conditions. Compound is half a mile north, Torres whispered. We should hear the generator soon. What about patrols? According to the schedule, there's a gap between shifts at 11:30. That gives us a 10-minute window. Jack checked his watch. 11:17. We move in 8 minutes. Until then, we wait. They crouched in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the island insects, waves, the distant hum of power systems. Somewhere ahead, the most powerful criminals in America were gathering to coordinate their empire. And somewhere in that compound, Jack hoped Ranger was still alive. Jack. Sarah's voice was barely audible. There's something I need to tell you, before we go in. Now's not really the time. It might be the only time. She took a breath. That photograph they showed me, the one with you and the Taliban intermediary, it was fabricated. I know, but for a moment, just a moment, I believed it. I doubted you." Her voice shook. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Doubt is healthy. It's what keeps you alive in situations like this." "But I should have trusted you. After everything you've done, you trusted me enough to be here. That's what matters." Jack met her eyes in the darkness. "We're going into a situation where nothing is certain, where people we thought were allies might be enemies, where every assumption could be wrong. The only thing I need from you is the same thing I need from myself." "What's that?" "The willingness to adapt, to question, to change course when the situation demands it." He paused. "And the courage to act when action is required." "I can do that." "I know you can. That's why I'm glad you're here." The watch beeped. 11:25. "5 minutes," Torres said. "Everyone ready?" Davis nodded, his camera already recording. Sarah pulled out her pistol and checked the magazine. Jack rose to a crouch, every sense alert. "Let's finish this." They moved through the jungle in single file, Jack on point, Torres bringing up the rear. The compound emerged from the darkness like a wound in the earth, a cluster of buildings surrounded by fencing floodlights casting harsh shadows. Guards visible at every entrance. But at 11:30, exactly as predicted, the guards changed shifts. For 90 seconds, the perimeter was unmonitored. Jack was over the fence before the first guard disappeared. The others followed, dropping silently onto the manicured grounds of what appeared to be a luxury resort. "Main building is straight ahead," Torres whispered. "That's where the meeting will be." "What about secondary structures?" "Staff quarters to the east, communications hub to the west, and there—" She pointed to a smaller building set apart from the others. "That's labeled as a kennel on the blueprints. They bring dogs for security work." Jack's heart clenched. "That's where they're keeping Ranger. We can't split up, not now. I'm not asking permission." Jack handed his camera to Sarah. "Get inside the main building. Document everything. I'll catch up." "Jack, this is insane!" "He's been with me for 7 years. He saved my life in Afghanistan. He was there when Elena died." Jack's voice broke. "I'm not leaving him here." Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. 10 minutes. Then we go in with or without you." "Understood." Jack disappeared into the shadows. The kennel was a single-story structure with reinforced walls and a heavy security door. Jack circled it twice, looking for vulnerabilities. There were 2 guards inside, visible through a small window. They sat at a table playing cards, their weapons holstered. Behind them, a row of cages held various dogs. German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, Dobermans. And in the last cage, his tan and black coat matted with dirt, his amber eyes dull with exhaustion, sat Ranger. Jack's rage was cold and controlled. He moved to the rear of the building, where the ventilation system provided an entry point. The ductwork was narrow, but he had squeezed through tighter spaces. Within minutes, he was inside the ceiling, looking down through a grate at the 2 guards. He dropped. The first guard never saw him coming. Jack's arm wrapped around his throat, cutting off blood flow to the brain. The man went limp in seconds. The second guard lunged for his weapon. Jack caught his arm twisted and drove his knee into the man's solar plexus. A quick strike to the temple finished the job. Both guards were down in under 5 seconds. "Ranger!" The German Shepherd's head snapped up. His tail began to wag. Jack broke the lock on the cage and opened the door. Ranger bounded out, pressing against his master's legs, whimpering with joy and relief. "I know, boy. I know. I'm here now." He checked Ranger quickly, thin, dehydrated, but no serious injuries. They hadn't been kind, but they hadn't broken him. "Can you work?" Ranger's ears perked up. His posture straightened. "Good boy. We've got a mission." They slipped out of the kennel and moved toward the main building. Jack's heart was lighter now, his focus sharper. With Ranger at his side, he felt complete again. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The main building was a sprawling mansion with colonial architecture and modern security. Jack found the others at the rear entrance where Torres had already disabled the electronic lock. "You made it," Sarah breathed. "And you found him." "Never doubted it." Jack scratched behind Ranger's ears. "What's the situation inside?" "The meeting's in progress. Main conference room, second floor." Torres pulled up a schematic on her phone. "We've identified at least 15 high-value targets, including Senator Walsh Justice Webb and Director Cole. Cole, he's here. Apparently he recovered faster than expected, or they didn't care about the head wound." Torres's voice was grim. "There's something else. We intercepted a communication. They're not just coordinating, they're initiating Operation Clean Slate tonight." "What's the timeline?" "Midnight. In about..." She checked her watch. 12 minutes. What exactly is Clean Slate? Mass arrests of everyone who's ever been connected to investigations into the Shepherd. Journalists, law enforcement former employees. Over 300 names on the list. Torres paused. "Your name is there. So is Sarah's. So is mine." "They can't arrest 300 people simultaneously." "They're not arresting them. They're eliminating them." Torres's face was pale. "The orders have already gone out. Strike teams are in position across the country. When the clock hits midnight, they all move at once." Jack's blood went cold. "We have to stop it." "The only way to stop it is to expose what's happening here, right now, before midnight." "Then we're not waiting for the perfect moment. We're going in." Sarah grabbed his arm. "Without a plan against armed guards and the most powerful people in the country, the plan is simple. We walk into that meeting, we start broadcasting, and we let the world see what the Shepherd really is." Jack met her eyes. "Either they kill us on camera and prove everything we've said, or they don't kill us, and we expose them anyway. Win-win." "That's insane." "It's our only option." Jack checked his weapon. "Davis, is your camera ready for live streaming?" "It can be. I just need a signal." "The communications hub is on the west side of the compound. Torres, can you get there?" "I can try." "Get there. Patch Davis's camera into the satellite uplink. The moment we enter that conference room, I want the whole world watching." Torres nodded and disappeared into the darkness. Jack turned to Sarah and Davis. "Last chance to back out." "Not a chance," Sarah said. "I'm in," Davis confirmed. "Then let's crash a party." They entered the mansion through a service entrance, moving through corridors that were eerily empty. All personnel had been called to the main conference room for the historic meeting, leaving the rest of the building unguarded. Jack led them up a servant's staircase to the second floor. Through the walls, he could hear voices calm. Professional, the sound of powerful people conducting business. Final phase requires precision timing. The assets are in position, but we cannot afford any further delays. The commander's escape has created complications. The public is starting to ask questions. Let them ask. By morning, everyone who might have answers will be silenced. Clean slate is the solution to all our problems. Jack reached the conference room door. Through a small window, he could see them, 24 of the most powerful people in America seated around a massive table discussing the elimination of 300 innocent lives. At the head of the table sat a figure he didn't recognize. An older man, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone who had spent a lifetime giving orders and watching them be obeyed. "That's him," Sarah whispered. "The Shepherd. You recognize him?" "No. But look at how the others defer to him. Even the vice president is waiting for his approval." Jack studied the man. Ordinary features, forgettable face, the kind of person you'd pass on the street without a second glance. Exactly as Victor had described. His comm crackled. Torres's voice. "I'm in position. Satellite uplink is ready. On your signal, we go live." "Copy that. Stand by." Jack turned to Davis. "The moment that door opens, you start streaming, no matter what happens." "Got it." He looked at Sarah. "Stay behind me. If shooting starts, get to cover." "I can handle myself." "I know. But Ranger needs someone to watch his back." Despite everything, Sarah smiled. Using the dog to manipulate me, that's low. Whatever works. Jack took a deep breath. 3, 2, 1. He kicked the door open. The conference room exploded into chaos. Guards drew weapons. Politicians dove for cover. Voices shouted over each other in confusion and fear. But Jack didn't fire. He walked into the room with his hands visible, Ranger at his heel, Sarah and Davis behind him. "Good evening," he said calmly. "I'm Commander Jack Reeves. You might remember me from the press conference you tried to have erased." "Kill him," someone shouted. "Kill them all." "I wouldn't do that." Jack nodded toward Davis and his camera. "We're broadcasting live, right now, to every major news network in the world, every journalist we could reach, every social media platform that would carry the signal." The guards hesitated. "You're bluffing," Director Cole spat. He was sporting a bandage on his head from their earlier encounter. "Our communications are secure. Your communications hub is currently being operated by one of my people. Everything you've said in this room for the past hour is now public record." Jack smiled coldly. "Including the part about Operation Clean Slate. Those 300 people you plan to eliminate. They're watching this too. So are their families. So are the FBI agents who aren't on your payroll." The silver-haired man at the head of the table stood slowly. "Commander Reeves, I've heard a great deal about you." His voice was cultured calm, entirely devoid of panic. "You've caused quite a bit of trouble over the past few days. You must be the shepherd." "A melodramatic name, but accurate enough. I guide my flock. I protect them from threats." He gestured around the room. "These people represent the true power in America. The power that keeps the nation stable. The power that makes the hard decisions so ordinary citizens don't have to. The power that murders innocent people, that corrupts judges and politicians, that built an empire on suffering and secrecy. The power that works. That's what matters in the end, isn't it?" Results. The shepherd stepped around the table, approaching Jack without fear. "You think you're a hero, a lone wolf fighting against the system, but you're just a soldier who's outlived his usefulness. The world doesn't need warriors anymore. It needs managers. It needs the truth. The truth is whatever we decide it is. We control the media, the courts, the intelligence agencies. By tomorrow morning, this broadcast will be dismissed as a deepfake. You'll be portrayed as a mentally ill veteran who snapped under pressure. And the people watching right now will move on to the next outrage, the next scandal, the next distraction. You're that confident. I've been doing this for 40 years, Commander. I've seen reformers come and go. Whistleblowers, crusaders, true believers, they all think they're different. They all think their truth will be the one that finally breaks through." The shepherd smiled. "They're always wrong. There's one thing you haven't considered." "And what's that?" Jack's hand moved to his weapon. "I don't care about winning. I care about fighting." "Jack, don't—" Sarah started, but Jack wasn't aiming at the shepherd. He was aiming at the wall behind him, specifically at the gas line that fed the mansion's heating system. "Everyone in this room knows what happens if I fire this shot. The gas ignites, the building explodes. We all die together." Jack's voice was steady. "Your empire ends tonight. The only question is whether it ends with you in handcuffs or in ashes." The shepherd's composure cracked for the first time. "You're insane." "I'm a SEAL. There's a difference." Jack's finger tightened on the trigger. "Call off Clean Slate. Right now. Send the abort code, or we all go together." "You're bluffing. You won't sacrifice yourself." "My wife is dead. My team is dead. My dog is the only family I have left." Jack's eyes were empty of fear. "I've got nothing to lose. Can you say the same?" The shepherd looked at the gun, at the gas line, at the camera still recording everything. For the first time in 40 years, he had no play, no angle, no way out. "Give the order," Senator Walsh said urgently. "For God's sake, give the order." "He's not bluffing," Director Cole added. I've seen his file. He's exactly crazy enough to do this. The shepherd stood motionless for an eternity. Then his shoulders sagged. Send the abort code. All teams stand down. Louder, for the cameras. I said stand down. Operation Clean Slate is aborted. The shepherd's voice echoed through the room. All teams return to base. The mission is cancelled. Jack didn't lower his weapon. Sarah, the phone on the table. Check the communications. Sarah moved carefully to the table and picked up the shepherd's encrypted phone. She scrolled through the messages, her face growing paler with each one. It's true. The abort code went out. All teams are confirming stand down. Now the evidence. Everything about the shepherd's organization. Financial records, membership lists, operational plans. That information is protected. The shepherd started. Jack raised his weapon slightly. On servers that I will now unlock. The shepherd pulled out a keycard and tossed it to Sarah. Take it. Take everything. It won't matter. This is just one head of the Hydra. Cut it off, and 2 more will grow. Maybe. But at least we'll have cut off one. Jack finally lowered his gun. Everyone in this room is under arrest. Davis, keep that camera rolling until the authorities arrive. Which authorities? We own them all. Not all of them. Jack smiled grimly. I sent the coordinates to several people before we came here. Friends from my SEAL days. FBI agents who I know aren't on your payroll. Military police with jurisdiction over personnel in this room. You can't. I already did. Listen. From somewhere outside came the sound of helicopters. Multiple rotors approaching fast. Coast Guard! Torres's voice crackled over the comm. And Navy MPs. They're landing now. The shepherd's face went gray. How? I told you. Some battles find you. Jack stepped back, Ranger pressing against his leg. And some of us are prepared to fight them. The doors burst open. Armed personnel in uniform flooded the room, shouting commands, securing weapons, forcing the most powerful criminals in America to their knees. In the chaos, Jack found Sarah. She was crying tears of relief, of exhaustion, of something that looked almost like hope. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. Not yet, but we're close. What else is there? Jack looked at the shepherd, now in handcuffs, being led out of the room by military police. Making sure it sticks, making sure they can't buy or threaten their way out. He took her hand. That's the harder fight. And it's going to take years. I don't care how long it takes. Neither do I. Davis lowered his camera. The feed's still going. Millions of people just watch the whole thing. Good. Let them watch what comes next, too. Jack turned toward the door. Let them watch justice happen in real time. Let them see that power isn't invincible, that even the most entrenched corruption can be exposed. And if it doesn't work, if they find a way to spin this, then we keep fighting. That's all we can do. That's all anyone can do. Jack whistled for Ranger. But tonight, we won. And tonight is enough. They walked out of the mansion together, a battered SEAL, a grieving widow, a turncoat marshal, and a German shepherd who had never stopped believing in his master. Behind them, the empire of the shepherd crumbled. And ahead of them, for the first time in a very long time, the future looked bright. The helicopters lifted off one by one, carrying the captured conspirators toward military detention facilities. Jack stood on the beach watching them go, Ranger sitting at his feet. Sarah joined him. What happens now? Trials, investigations, years of testimony and evidence and legal battles. Jack shrugged. The boring part. Doesn't sound boring to me. Sounds like the most important part. Maybe, but it's not my part. I did what I'm good at. The rest is for lawyers and legislators. And you? What will you do? Jack looked at the ocean, at the stars, at the dog who had been with him through everything. Disappear. Again. Find another cabin in another mountain range. Try to find the peace Elena asked me to find. Alone. That's how I work best." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What if you didn't have to be alone?" Jack turned to look at her. "Maya needs stability. A home. People who can be there for her." Sarah's voice was careful. "But she also needs role models. People who show her what courage looks like, what sacrifice means. I'm not exactly father material. Neither was Daniel at first. He learned." She stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to be her father. I'm asking you to be present, nearby, part of something instead of apart from it." "That's a big ask." "I know, and you don't have to answer now." Sarah took his hand. "But think about it. When you're up in your mountain chopping wood and talking to your dog, think about whether there might be another way." Jack didn't respond, but he didn't pull away either. And as the sun began to rise over the Caribbean, casting golden light across the water, he allowed himself to imagine just for a moment what that other way might look like. It wasn't peace, but it was something. And for now, something was enough. The trials began 6 weeks after the island raid. Jack sat in the witness gallery of a federal courtroom in Washington watching as the shepherd, whose real name turned out to be Harrison Wells, former CIA deputy director, was led to the defendant's table in chains. The man who had controlled half the American government for 4 decades now shuffled like a broken puppet, his silver hair unkempt, his eyes hollow. Sarah sat beside Jack, her hand resting on his arm. They hadn't talked about what that meant, but somewhere between the island and now touching had become natural, easy, necessary. "He looks smaller than I remember," she whispered. "Power does that. Take it away and you see what's left underneath." "What is left?" "Fear. The same thing he used to control everyone else." Jack's jaw tightened. Now he gets to feel it for himself. The prosecutor rose. A woman named Angela Morrison, tough, brilliant, incorruptible. She had been fighting the shepherd's influence for 15 years, losing case after case as evidence disappeared and witnesses recanted. Now she finally had everything she needed. "Your Honor, the prosecution will demonstrate that Harrison Wells, operating under the alias The Shepherd, orchestrated a criminal enterprise spanning 4 decades. This enterprise included drug trafficking weapons, smuggling political corruption, and the murders of at least 147 American citizens, including Officer Daniel Mitchell, whose widow is present in this courtroom today." Sarah's grip on Jack's arm tightened. "We will present evidence showing that Mr. Wells personally ordered the execution of undercover law enforcement officers, that he infiltrated every level of the federal government, that he corrupted judges, senators, and cabinet members, and that he planned the largest mass assassination in American history, an operation called Clean Slate, that was stopped only by the courageous actions of Commander Jack Reeves and Officer Sarah Mitchell." Morrison paused, letting her words sink in. "By the end of this trial, the prosecution will prove beyond any reasonable doubt that Harrison Wells is the most dangerous criminal in American history, and we will ask for the maximum penalty allowed by law." Wells's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client maintains his innocence." "Save it for the jury," the judge said dryly. "Prosecution, call your first witness." The prosecution calls Commander Jack Reeves. Jack rose. Sarah's hand fell away from his arm, but her eyes followed him as he walked to the stand. This was the moment he had been dreading. The moment when everything he had done, every kill, every decision, every desperate gamble would be laid bare for the world to see. He placed his hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Then he began. The testimony lasted 3 days. Jack described finding Sarah in the forest, the execution Victor had planned the moment he decided to intervene. He described the investigation that followed the connection to the shepherd, the evidence they had gathered. He described the black site, the torture Torres had endured, the escape that Davis had made possible. And he described the island, the confrontation with Wells, The live stream that had exposed everything the moment when the most powerful criminal in America had finally been forced to surrender. The defense attorney tried everything. He attacked Jack's credibility, his mental health, his military record. He suggested that the entire operation had been a false flag designed to frame innocent people. Jack answered every question calmly, factually, without emotion. "Commander Reeves, isn't it true that you suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder?" "Yes." "And isn't it true that PTSD can cause hallucinations, paranoia, and distorted perceptions of reality?" "It can." "So how can the jury be certain that your testimony reflects what actually happened, rather than what your damaged mind believes happened?" Jack paused. Then he said, "Because I brought receipts." "Excuse me." "Video footage, audio recordings, financial documents, witness testimony from dozens of people who had no connection to me before this started." Jack leaned forward. "I didn't ask anyone to take my word for it. I provided proof. Physical, verifiable, court-admissible proof." "But you can attack my character all you want, question my sanity, suggest that I'm making it all up." Jack's voice hardened. "But you can't attack the evidence, because the evidence speaks for itself." The courtroom was silent. Morrison smiled. When Jack's testimony ended, Sarah was waiting outside the courtroom. "You were incredible." "I told the truth. That's all. That's everything." She fell into step beside him as they walked toward the exit. "The jury was hanging on every word. I saw their faces when you described what Wells did to Daniel, to all those people. Will it be enough?" "I think so. Morrison has dozens more witnesses lined up. Torres, Davis, even some of Wells's former associates who decided to cooperate rather than go down with him." "And the others?" "The senators and judges who were part of the Shepherd. Most of them are taking plea deals, trading testimony for reduced sentences." Sarah's voice darkened. "Some of them will probably walk. The system isn't perfect." "No, but it's better than it was." They emerged onto the courthouse steps. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. Security personnel held back the crowd. Jack had become famous or infamous, depending on who was asked. The video of the island confrontation had been viewed 300 million times. He had been called a hero, a vigilante, a lunatic, a patriot. Politicians used his name to score points. Pundits debated his actions on cable news. He hated all of it. "Commander Reeves." "Commander Reeves. How does it feel to be the man who brought down the Shepherd?" Jack ignored the questions, keeping his head down, moving toward the waiting car. But Sarah stopped. "I'll take that one," she said, turning to face the cameras. "Commander Reeves doesn't want to be famous. He doesn't want to be a symbol. He just wanted justice for the people who were hurt by this organization, including my husband, Officer Daniel Mitchell, who died trying to expose the truth." The reporters went quiet. "What happens next isn't about Jack Reeves or me. It's about whether the system can actually hold powerful people accountable. We've given them the evidence. Now we'll see if they have the courage to use it." She turned and walked to the car, leaving the reporters to digest her words. Jack was waiting inside. That was unexpected. Someone had to say it. Sarah settled into her seat. "You're too busy being stoic and mysterious." "I'm not mysterious. I'm just tired." "Same thing sometimes." She looked at him. "How are you really doing?" "I don't know. I spent years wanting this, wanting to see Wells and his people face justice. Now that it's happening..." He trailed off. "It doesn't feel like you expected. It doesn't feel like anything. Just empty." "That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for weeks. Now that it's over..." "It's not over. The trial will take months, and even when Wells is convicted, there'll be appeals, legal maneuvering, political interference. This could drag on for years." "Then we'll be here for years." Sarah took his hand. "Together." Jack looked at their intertwined fingers. "I'm not good at together." Neither was Daniel. He learned. She squeezed gently. So will you. The verdict came 4 months later. Guilty on all counts. Harrison Wells was sentenced to 7 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He would die in a federal supermax prison alone and forgotten, stripped of everything he had built. The other defendants received varying sentences. Some walked away with probation. Others faced decades behind bars. Senator Walsh got 20 years for conspiracy and corruption. Justice Webb was impeached and disbarred before receiving 15 years. Director Cole died of a heart attack before his trial could begin. The system wasn't perfect, but it had worked better than anyone expected. Jack watched the verdict announcement from Sarah's living room, Maya playing with Ranger on the floor. Guilty, the news anchor said. Harrison Wells, the man known as the Shepherd, has been found guilty of running the largest criminal conspiracy in American history. Sentencing will follow, but legal experts predict multiple life sentences. Maya looked up from where she was tugging on Ranger's ears. Mommy, why is the man on TV sad? Because he did very bad things, sweetheart. And now he has to face the consequences. Like timeout? Like a very, very long timeout. Good. Maya went back to playing with Ranger, her attention span exhausted by adult concepts. Jack smiled. It was the first genuine smile Sarah had seen from him in months. She likes the dog more than the news. She has good priorities. Sarah sat beside him. How do you feel? Honestly relieved. I didn't realize how heavy this was until it was over. It's not completely over. No. But the hard part is done. Wells is going to prison. The organization is dismantled. The people who suffered, at least some of them, are getting justice. And you, what about your justice? Jack thought about his team in Afghanistan, about the friends he had lost because of Wells's operation, about the years he had spent carrying that weight alone. I don't know if justice is the right word. Closure, maybe. I can finally close that chapter and move on. Move on to what? He looked at her, really looked. At the woman who had fought beside him through impossible odds. Who had trusted him when she had every reason not to. Who had opened her home and her life to a broken soldier with nothing to offer but his loyalty. I was thinking about staying. Staying here, in the area, near you and Maya. Jack hesitated. If that's okay. Sarah's eyes glistened. You're asking my permission. I'm asking if you want me around. I'm not exactly easy to live with. Neither am I. She leaned against him. But Maya loves Ranger. And I love... She stopped. You love what... I love having you here. That's what I was going to say. Was it... It's what I'm saying now. She pulled back to look at him. Stay, Jack. Please. We need you. I need you too. The words surprised him. He had never admitted that to anyone, not even Elena. I didn't expect that. Didn't want it, honestly. But here we are. Here we are. They sat together as the news droned on, Maya playing with Ranger, the weight of the past finally beginning to lift. Jack stayed. He found a small house 3 blocks from Sarah's apartment, close enough to visit, but far enough to maintain the independence he needed. Ranger adapted immediately, claiming the backyard as his territory, and the neighborhood dogs as his subjects. The first few months were an adjustment. Jack wasn't used to civilian life. The small talk, the routines, the expectations of normalcy. He still woke at AO 400, still ran 5 miles before sunrise, still checked the perimeter of every building he entered. But slowly, gradually, he began to change. He started teaching self-defense classes at the community center, passing on skills he had learned in the teams to veterans and at-risk youth. The work gave him purpose without the violence that had defined his military career. He saw a therapist, something Elena had begged him to do for years, but that he had always refused. The sessions were difficult, painful, exposing wounds he had spent decades covering with discipline and denial. but they helped, and he spent time with Maya. The little girl had adopted him without hesitation the way children do. She called him Uncle Jack and demanded he read her bedtime stories and asked endless questions about Ranger's adventures. Uncle Jack, did Ranger ever fight a bear? Once, in Alaska. Did he win? Of course. Ranger always wins. Even against dragons. Especially against dragons. But those are classified. Maya's eyes went wide. What's classified? It means I can't tell you. Top secret. Because I might tell the dragons? Exactly. Sarah watched these exchanges with a warmth that she hadn't felt since Daniel's death. Jack was good with Maya, patient, imaginative, protective in a way that felt natural rather than overbearing. You're a natural, she told him one evening. I'm making it up as I go. That's what parenting is. I'm not her parent. No. But you're something important. Sarah touched his face. She talks about you constantly. Uncle Jack said this, Uncle Jack did that. You're becoming part of her world. Is that okay? I know Daniel would have wanted this. He would have wanted someone in her life who could teach her strength and courage and how to stand up for what's right. Her voice thickened. He would have approved of you. You think so? I know so. You're exactly the kind of man he admired. Jack didn't know what to say, so he did something he almost never did. He pulled her close and held her. 1 year after the trial ended, Sarah received a letter. It was from the Department of Justice informing her that the Daniel Mitchell Memorial Foundation had been officially established. Created with funds seized from the Shepherd's organization, the foundation would support families of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. They named it after him, Sarah said, her voice breaking. They actually named it after Daniel. Jack read the letter over her shoulder. He would have hated the attention. He would have loved the mission. Sarah wiped her eyes. He always said the hardest part for families was being forgotten. After the funeral, after the memorial service, everyone moves on. But the wives and kids and parents, they're still left with the hole. Now they'll have support. Now they'll have Daniel's name. She looked at him. This is because of you. Because of what you did. It's because of a lot of people. Torres, Davis, Morrison, all the witnesses who came forward. But you started it. You were the one who decided to intervene that night in the forest. If you hadn't been there, don't. That's a path that leads nowhere good. It leads to gratitude. Let me be grateful. Jack sighed. Fine. You're welcome. That's a start. She kissed his cheek. Now, help me figure out how to run a foundation. I have no idea what I'm doing. The foundation grew faster than anyone expected. Within 2 years, it had chapters in every state providing financial assistance, counseling services, and community support to hundreds of families. Sarah became the executive director, transforming her grief into purpose in a way that Daniel would have admired. Jack served as security consultant, though his role was more ceremonial than practical. He spent most of his time in the background, avoiding cameras, deflecting attention toward the work, rather than the people doing it. Torres became the foundation's head of outreach, using her law enforcement connections to identify families in need. Her injuries from the black site had healed, leaving only faint scars and a limp that flared up in cold weather. Davis left the Marshals Service and joined the foundation as operations director. His betrayal of his former employers had made him a pariah in law enforcement circles, but it had also made him a hero to everyone who valued integrity over convenience. Together, they built something lasting, something that would continue long after they were gone. You know what the best part is? Sarah asked during a foundation gala 3 years after the trial. The free food. The fact that this exists because of something terrible. Daniel's death. The shepherd's crimes. All that suffering, and now it's become something that helps people. She looked around the room at the families they had supported, the volunteers who had joined their cause. It's like transformation, taking darkness and turning it into light. That's very philosophical. I've been reading self-help books. Torres recommended them. Torres reads self-help books. Torres does a lot of things that would surprise you. Sarah smiled. She's dating someone you know. I did not know that. A firefighter from Denver. They met at a conference. Good for her. Good for both of them. Sarah took his hand. Speaking of relationships. Are we speaking of relationships? We've been dancing around this for 3 years. At some point, we need to have an actual conversation. About what? About us. About what we are to each other. Sarah faced him directly. I love you, Jack. I've loved you for a long time. And I think you love me too, even though you're too stubborn to say it. I'm not stubborn. You're the most stubborn person I've ever met. It's one of your best qualities. And one of my worst? Same list. She squeezed his hand. What do you want? Not what's practical or safe or logical. What do you actually want? Jack was quiet for a long moment. I want to stop running. I want to be present for something instead of always preparing for the next threat. I want to watch Maya grow up and know that I was part of that, not as a protector or a guardian, but as family. And me. You're the reason any of that is possible. You and Maya and this life you've let me be part of. He met her eyes. I love you. I don't say it because words are cheap and actions matter more. But I love you, Sarah. I have since the island. Maybe before. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said. Don't get used to it. Too late. She pulled him close. I'm holding you to that, forever. Forever is a long time. So is the rest of our lives. Might as well spend it together. They married in a small ceremony the following spring. The guest list was limited. Torres Davis, a few friends from the foundation, some veterans Jack had served with Sarah's mother and sister. Maya served as flower girl with Ranger as ring bearer. The rings were attached to his collar with a ribbon. The ceremony was held in a garden outside Denver, with mountains in the background and wildflowers everywhere. Jack wore his dress blues for the first time in years. Sarah wore white, simple and elegant, exactly as Daniel would have wanted. I take this man to be my husband, she said, her voice clear and strong. To have and to hold from this day forward. For better, for worse. In sickness and in health. Until death do us part. I take this woman to be my wife, Jack replied. To love and to cherish. To protect and to support. For as long as I live. They exchanged rings. They kissed. The small crowd cheered. And somewhere Jack liked to think Elena was watching. Smiling. Finally at peace with what he had become. Maya ran up to them the moment the ceremony ended. Are you my daddy now? Jack knelt to her level. I'm whatever you want me to be, sweetheart. I want you to be my daddy. Is that okay? That's more than okay. He hugged her tight. That's perfect. Ranger too. Ranger especially. The reception lasted until midnight with dancing and laughter and stories shared among people who had all in their own ways been part of the journey that brought them here. Torres gave a toast that made everyone cry. Davis gave a toast that made everyone laugh. And Jack sat with his new wife and daughter, watching the people he loved celebrate the life they had built together, feeling something he hadn't felt in decades. Not just happiness. Home. 5 years later, Jack stood before a monument in Arlington National Cemetery. The monument honored the victims of the Shepherds Organization, all 147 names carved in granite with Daniel Mitchell's name near the top. It had been dedicated by the president herself, a ceremony attended by thousands. Jack had skipped the ceremony. Too many cameras, too many speeches. He preferred to pay his respects alone. I never knew you, Daniel, but I know what you did, what you sacrificed. He placed a hand on the cold stone. Your wife is happy now. Your daughter is growing up strong and smart and brave just like her father. The organization you died fighting is gone. The people responsible are in prison or dead." He paused. "I wish you could see it. I wish you could see what Sarah has built in your name. The families she's helped. The lives she's changed." Ranger sat beside him. Old now, his muzzle gray, his movements slower than they used to be. But his eyes were still bright, still watching, still loyal. "I promised her I would keep them safe. I've kept that promise. And I'll keep it for as long as I live." He stepped back. "Rest easy, brother. You've earned it." Sarah found him there an hour later. "I thought I'd find you here. I come every year, on the anniversary." "I know," Maya told me. She stood beside him reading the names. "Do you think they know the ones who died? Do you think they can see what we've accomplished?" "I don't know, but I like to think so." Jack put his arm around her. "How's the foundation?" "Growing. We opened 3 new chapters this month, and the scholarship program is fully funded through 2030. Daniel would be proud." "Daniel would say it was about time." Sarah smiled through her tears. "He was always impatient." "Sounds familiar?" "Runs in the family." She looked up at him. "Maya's waiting in the car. She wants to get ice cream." "Then we should get ice cream." "She also wants to know if Ranger can have some." "Ranger can have whatever he wants. He's earned it." They walked back to the car together, leaving the monument behind. Maya waved from the back seat, her face bright with the innocent joy of a child who had never known the darkness that preceded her. "Daddy, Daddy, hurry up. The ice cream place closes at 5. "Coming, sweetheart." Jack opened the door and helped Ranger into the back, where Maya immediately began petting him with the obsessive attention of a 7-year-old. "Can we get chocolate?" "You can get whatever flavor you want. Even bubblegum." "Even bubblegum. But if you get sick, don't blame me." "I won't get sick. My stomach is made of steel." "Who told you that?" "Uncle Davis. He said Mitchell women have iron stomachs." Sarah laughed. "Davis talks too much." "He also said you once ate a whole pizza by yourself." "That was one time, during the trial." "Was it a big pizza?" "Very big." "Cool." Maya went back to petting Ranger. "Daddy, is Ranger going to live forever?" Jack's heart clenched. It was a question he had been dreading. "No, sweetheart. Ranger is very old. He won't be with us forever. But he'll be with us for a long time, right? For as long as he can. And when he goes, we'll remember him. We'll tell stories about all his adventures. Like the dragon. Especially the dragon." Maya nodded seriously. "Okay, as long as we remember him." "We will. I promise." They drove to the ice cream shop, a small family, enjoying a small moment, the weight of the past finally fading into something manageable. And as Jack watched his wife and daughter laughing together, Ranger's head resting on Maya's lap, he realized something. This was it. This was what Elena had wanted for him. What Daniel had died protecting. What he had spent his entire life fighting for without knowing it. A family. A home. A future. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of love. Not the end of struggle, but the beginning of peace. He had started this journey as a ghost, a man with nothing to lose, and no reason to live. He had walked through fire and darkness, had faced enemies that most people couldn't imagine, had sacrificed everything for a cause that sometimes seemed hopeless. And in the end, he had found what he was looking for. Not in the medals, or the monuments, or the headlines. In the simple, ordinary miracle of a little girl calling him Daddy. In the warmth of a woman who had seen his worst and loved him anyway. In the loyal eyes of a dog who had never stopped believing in him. This was victory. This was legacy. This was home. Ranger passed peacefully in his sleep 2 years later, surrounded by the family who loved him. Jack buried him in the backyard under the oak tree where they used to sit together in the evenings. Maya placed flowers on the grave every week until she left for college. The next spring, they adopted a German Shepherd puppy from a veterans rescue organization. They named him Daniel. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what this story meant to you. And remember this truth. In the darkest forest on the coldest night, when evil believes it has already won, there are guardians watching, warriors ready to rise, dogs who will never abandon their partners. You are not alone. You never were. And in the end, love wins, justice wins, courage wins, every single time. Because some battles find us, and some of us are born to fight them. Not for glory, not for recognition, for the simple sacred truth that good people deserve to be protected, and good dogs deserve to be remembered. Thank you for watching. God bless you and your families, and may you find your own home wherever the journey takes you.